Hi everyone, please subscribe to my channel. Blood Immortal Venerable. See playlist for other chapters and novels. I do not translate the novels. Credits goes to original translator and author of the novel. I only make it as an audiobook so it would be easier to just listen while doing other things. Credits goes to the author of the novel. I convert stories to audiobook for mental health, for multitasking purpose, for accessibility and time saving. Listening to audiobook is also beneficial for people who have disability. It improves our listening skills and improve our English comprehension, vocabulary and other things. So, thank you for listening. Thank you and thank you very much for your support. Chapter 821, Spirit Beast Area. Everyone needed to have a good understanding of the situation in the Feather Holy Sea before they entered it. The divine level talent had just asked a stupid question by naively thinking that there would be no dangers in the next area. All four divine kingdoms had been exploring the Feather Holy Sea for many years, but they still hadn't completely understood it. The biggest hindrance was the many dangers in it. However, compared to the Heavenly Stellar Secret Land, the Feather Emperor Secret Land, Mysterious Dream Secret Land and Divine Emperor Secret Land were much easier to explore. Thus, every year the four divine kingdoms explored Feather Holy Sea. They would leave the other three secret lands for their younger generation to explore. The powerful masters at Soul Sea Realm and Life and Death Realm wouldn't sit idle once the Feather Holy Sea was opened. They would find a way to enter the most troublesome and most dangerous secret land, the Heavenly Stellar Secret Land. Randy said, the dragon lineage human once used the blood sacrifice to spread the curse, and many of the spirit beasts that were reared in this spirit beast area also suffered the same fate. However, the ghosts of these spirit beasts were still floating in the middle of the area, so everyone must be more careful when entering the spirit beast area. Actually, he had already sensed that something was amiss in the Slow Arrow area. Based on this, he had estimated that the Spirit Beast area would be more dangerous than before. Even if he was wrong, there was no harm in being extra cautious. Everyone nodded and continued to advance forward. The Slow Arrow area was in the chaotic jungle, while the Spirit Beast area was in a pitch-black grassland. The weeds in the soil were constantly squirming like bugs. Everyone, try to walk at a brisk pace. Don't stop, commanded Randy as he looked at the wriggling weeds. Why, it seemed Renzo hadn't learned his lesson. He stepped into the grassland before fully understanding Randy's instructions. The moment he stepped on the grass, the weeds started to wriggle violently, knotting together and forming an obstacle. The weeds were trying to trip Renzo. Is this what Lord Randy is referring to? Renzo said with a look of disdain. These small weeds actually wanted to trip him, a warrior at the virtual tribulation realm. Warriors at the virtual tribulation realm were capable of splitting mountains. These were merely some weeds, he ignored them as they were insignificant to him. Renzo stomped on the knots, smashing them to pieces. However, he never expected the weeds to be so tenacious. The thin roots coiled around his legs and tripped him. Renzo smiled rather sheepishly. He had indeed underestimated these weeds. But he still believed that they could not do any real harm to him. However, just as he was about to get up, the weeds around his fingers wriggled hard and formed many knots that tied his arms to the ground. In the blink of an eye, the weeds had covered his entire body. When seen from a distance it would be impossible to find him. Only a small mound was visible. No matter how much he struggled, Renzo was unable to break free from these grassy restraints. Randy's figure flashed and a golden red knife appeared in his hand. He moved swiftly through the grassland to get to Renzo. He lightly pressed the sharp knife's edge down and brushed it across Renzo's body. Whoosh! The weeds on Renzo's body snapped into two and he took the opportunity to leap up. Then he brushed the dirt off his body. Now he looked at the weeds fearfully. There were many other ways to deal with these weeds. For instance, a martial artist who practiced the fire law could activate his life vitality and burn them. Unfortunately, Renzo, Barry and the several others had practiced auxiliary cultivation methods. They were unable to deal with these unremarkable weeds. Randy said flatly, these weeds are called black thread grass, and they are extremely tough. It's not hard to deal with them, however, if we meet the ghosts, we might be in big trouble. Therefore, everyone should try to walk as lightly as possible and not stumble over these things. With that not so gentle reminder by Randy, everyone began moving cautiously through the turf. There were only a few bare trees on this vast black grassland so one could see far and wide. They gradually left the gloomy Slow Arrow area behind. They had been chasing the other warriors for a while when they suddenly saw lightning flash and heard the rumble of thunder not too far away. Crack, boom, Randy's eyes flickered and he commanded, let's follow up. Zen followed him closely. His eyes were as calm as water when he looked at the violent bolts of lightning. When they walked over to take a look, they discovered that the divine level talents hadn't gone far. At least half of them had stayed there. However, these remaining warriors were standing in a circle and it seemed they had surrounded something. This thing is afraid of lightning. All of the martial artists who cultivate the thunder law attack it together. Let's kill it. Strike harder. It won't be able to hold on for very long. What luck, we found a ghost beast just as we entered. As Zen slowly approached the scene, he was able to see more clearly what lay ahead by the light of the lightning. It turned out that in the center of the circle was a human-shaped ghost. Its arms were stretched out and its movements were extremely slow. It was making strange sounds from its large mouth. It was unable to seize a single martial artist around it as it was moving too slow. Those martial artists who were proficient in the thunder law kept striking it with the power of thunder law. Fiona's eyes flashed in anger and she yelled, "Can you stop attacking it?" Frederick had accumulated the life vitality in his body, and so a violent purple lightning burst out from his body and shot towards the ghost with a bang. Ghosts feared lightning the most, because it could ward off all evil spirits. As the lightning hit it, the ghost trembled vehemently. When Frederick heard Fiona's words, he glanced at her and asked, "Princess Fiona, why did you ask us to stop?" This ghost looks so vulnerable and weak," she replied. "Ha ha ha ha, Princess Fiona has such a tender heart. She is so adorable. If I could marry such a woman and make her my imperial concubine, that would be great." The warriors burst out laughing at Fiona's words. There weren't any seniors to supervise them here, so the young men indulged in brash jokes. It was during her battle with Zen that many divine level talents got to know her personality. She seemed to be full of sympathy for everything. It was fine to have sympathy for humans but to feel sorry for the ghost. That was unacceptable. The martial artists laughed uproariously as they continued to attack the ghost with thunder. Purple, blue and white colored bolts of thunder struck the ghost's body one after another. They could obtain many ghost beads from the body of the ghost beast. The ghost bead could strengthen the soul and was highly valued even in the Divine Kingdom continent. How could they give up merely because Fiona asked them to stop? Crack, crack, the lightning boomed loudly, producing deafening sounds. Seeing this, Renzo looked at Randy gloomily. "This spirit beast area isn't as terrifying as you made it sound," he remarked. They had suffered a lot in the slow arrow area and almost lost their lives, so when they entered the spirit beast area, everyone's hearts tightened as they recalled Randy's words. But now this ghost, who was being bullied by the martial artists, was completely at a disadvantage, and seemed to be incapable of fighting back. Randy smiled helplessly. "The last time we passed through the slow arrow area, it was very easy and smooth, but we had encountered a lot of trouble in the spirit beast area. This time, however, it's the opposite," he explained. Seeing that Fiona was still very unhappy about the ghost being bullied like that, Callan said, "Fiona, you can't stop them. Let's proceed." While Callan was urging Fiona to leave, Renzo, Barry and the several others were reluctant to go, especially Barry, who practiced a particular kind of spirit-related cultivation technique. The ghost beads would benefit him a lot. So for a moment, he was in two minds. Suddenly the Cyan Dragon's panicked voice rang in Zen's mind. Although the soul of the Cyan Dragon was a bit dim, he hadn't fallen into deep sleep like Lavender's soul. The Cyan Dragon said, "Zen, run, leave the spirit beast area quickly." Chapter 822, Heavenly Thunder Halberd. The Cyan Dragon's warning brought puzzlement to Zen's face. He asked warily, "What's wrong? What happened?" "The language that the ghost beast spoke belongs to the dragon race," the Cyan Dragon explained hurriedly. "The language of the genuine dragon?" Zen knew that the genuine dragon race had their own language. But when he had entered the genuine dragon world last time, he hadn't found it difficult to communicate with the dragon lineage human. So it hadn't occurred to him that the genuine dragon race could have a language that was unique to them. "That's right. The ghost beast is summoning other beasts from the spirit beast area. If you don't leave now, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave later," the Cyan Dragon warned. When the Cyan Dragon had finished speaking, Zen turned to find that the ghost beast was being struck by lightning over and over again. His face hardened with determination as he said to Randy and the others, "Let's go. Everyone, let's leave this place. Quick." Randy became curious when he heard Zen urging them to leave. Zen hadn't been in a hurry just moments ago. So why had he suddenly become so anxious? "Hurry up and leave. That ghost beast is summoning other ghost beasts," Zen urged. Randy was still apprehensive, but when he saw the seriousness etched across Zen's face, he didn't ask any more questions and made to leave. But just as he was about to leave with the rest, he turned around and saw Bram, the crown prince of the Harlan Divine Kingdom. Bram had led Gregory, Edwin and the other members of his group to gather around the ghost beast. It looked like they also wanted to get some ghost beads from the ghost beast. Although there was a huge conflict between Randy and Bram, in the end, they were half-brothers, and both were wary of that fact. This made Randy say a few words to Bram through his life vitality. Bram glanced at Randy in surprise and frowned, but he still seemed to believe what Randy was saying. He then made to leave along with his group. But just as Bram and his men turned to leave, he heard the ghost beast let out a deafening roar that reverberated across the sky. "It's dying. Everyone, come on," Frederick shouted excitedly. "No matter how many ghost beads we get, all those who have attacked the beast can share them equally." "You mean they can be divided equally among us? Are you dreaming? The one who is most powerful obviously gets more ghost beads." But the expected didn't happen. The lightning didn't kill the ghost beast. Instead, it fell to the ground after a series of roars. At the same time, the weeds within a radius of several hundred feet suddenly began to grow at a crazy rate. Crack! No one was able to fly because of the blood sacrifice. They could only keep running around the ghost beast. Within 3 seconds, the weeds had grown to a height of 10 feet, enveloping all the warriors who were within a radius of 100 feet. The layers of weeds firmly fettered them. "Ah! Get out of here quickly!" Every warrior was struggling desperately against the weeds and it was not easy for them to break free. The ghost beast walked slowly towards a warrior who was surrounded by tens of thousands of weeds. The warrior was unable to break free in the short time it took for the beast to walk up. He could only watch helplessly as the ghost beast slowly raised its palm and hit his body hard. The ghost beast moved slowly, but was astounding strong. With just a slash of its palm, the beast had split the warrior into two and then walked towards the next warrior. Bram had left, his men following him, and had avoided the growing weeds. It was all thanks to Randy's warning, but Randy himself was now trapped in the weeds. Bang! The warriors who were trapped within the weeds wouldn't sit still and simply wait for their deaths. Some warriors who were skilled in the fire law suddenly released raging flames from their bodies and began to burn the weeds. "Don't burn them, it's scalding me to death. How can we get out of here if we don't burn them? The ghost beast is coming towards me. Help!" There was complete chaos in the weeds because everyone wanted to break free. Some powerful warriors and those with powerful weapons had escaped. But most warriors were still trapped in the weeds because they couldn't defend themselves or escape in time. As they struggled, the sudden mournful screams rent the air. The sky was filled with a black mass, a group of ghost beasts that flew towards them. The trapped warriors were now in genuine despair, hope draining away from them bit by bit. "Stop looking, let's run away right now." When Zen left, he patted Fiona on the shoulder. She had previously been worried about the ghost beast, but now, she was worried about the safety of those warriors. But now was not the time to worry about others. The number of ghost beasts in the black mass hovering above could be close to tens of thousands. Anyone caught by them would surely end up dead. The group of warriors swiftly left that place. But Zen had traveled hardly 6 or 7 miles when he heard a loud vibrating sound emanating from behind him. Boom! Zen turned just in time to see incomparably thick thunder and lightning shooting towards the sky. The force of the explosion caused the grass in the entire spirit beast area to tremble and the ghost beasts that were circling in the air disappeared in an instant. The thunder and lightning. Zen's heart thundered against his chest as he saw that dazzling light. When Randy saw the thick thunder and lightning, a smile appeared on his face. He then said softly, "That is Frederick's doing." "Is he really that powerful?" Zen asked. The power of the thunder and lightning was probably on par with the full power of a Soul Sea Realm Master. Randy shook his head and chuckled. "He is the Crown Prince of the York Divine Kingdom. Of course he is very remarkably powerful. The headquarters of the secret sect was built within the York Divine Kingdom, a kingdom that was home to Marine. The York Divine Kingdom was able to stand out among the 4 Divine Kingdoms mainly because of the secret sect. The York Divine Kingdom had the right to be the first to select the resources passed down from the reverse spirit channel. As the Crown Prince of the York Divine Kingdom, Frederick naturally had all sorts of good weapons and treasures. Randy continued, "If I'm not mistaken, he has used up the Heavenly Thunder Halberd just now, which can only be used once and is ranked as a semi-divine weapon." Zen was surprised to learn this information about the weapon. No wonder it possessed such power. But if Frederick hadn't used this weapon, he would have become a corpse. The members of the royal families did indeed have a lot of good things. Callan, Fiona, and Randy might also have other weapons that could save their lives when in danger. The thunder and lightning had eliminated most of the ghost beasts in the spirit beast area, causing everyone to heave a collective sigh of relief. Everyone maintained a certain speed as they advanced through the grass of the spirit beast area. Fiona piped up, "Can we enter the secret land after passing through the spirit beast area?" Randy nodded and said, "Theoretically speaking, yes. After we pass through the spirit beast area, we will arrive at the center of the island. We can find the entrance to the Feather Emperor's secret land there." They did not encounter any trouble in the later part of their journey and passed through the spirit beast area easily. Soon after, a magnificent sight welcomed everyone's eyes. Lines formed from all sorts of jades and lights outlined a world that looked like paradise. Every pavilion glowed colorfully. Usually, if a place was rich in color, it would look vulgar, at least to a certain extent. But this wielded a power that made everyone feel comfortable as they gazed at the perfect color matching. "It's so beautiful." Fiona was the first to rush in as she took in this scene. Her eyes flickered with emotion. Their journey had caused everyone to tense up, but beholding this beautiful scene caused them to relax. Zen slowly walked up and carefully observed the buildings in front of him. The buildings of the dragon lineage human were quite exquisite, and the materials used to build them were mixed with luminous sand of various colors. The luminous sand absorbed the sunlight during the day and could reflect different kinds of lights at night. The sand still looked dazzling even after thousands of years. "Here is the entrance." It was not the first time that Randy had been to this place. He was already used to the scenery. He gestured to everyone and led them to the entrance of the Feather Emperor's secret land. Chapter 823, Pickaxes. The civilization that the dragon lineage human had built within the Feather Holy Sea was marvelous and had caught the eye of every single person. Everyone who was walking along the road would admire the buildings whose style was completely different from that of the human race, and in awe of their magnificent style and beauty. Several exclaims were heard every now and then. "If only I could stay here forever." Camilla let out a deep sigh. "Stay here forever?" Renzo laughed and taunted. "So that the power of the blood sacrifice can squash you to death." What a choice. There was a strong influence of the blood sacrifice on this place and only the dragon lineage humans were able to survive inside. Rumor had it that some of the dragon lineage humans were still living inside the Feather Holy Sea. Unlike the procession, Zen completely ignored these sights as he followed closely behind Randy. During this trip, he had to find life stones as many as possible. This was his main goal as he entered the Feather Holy Sea. Under the leadership of Randy, everyone progressed and suddenly, they saw a pyramid appear in front of them. The pyramid was very unique in terms of structure. From its base to its very top, every single one of its layers had numerous narrow doors about the width and height of a person. It was densely packed with these kinds of doors, and these doors were such that each door would only allow one person to pass through it. The person who had built the pyramid most probably wanted only one person to pass through each door. "Which door is the entrance?" Zen asked curiously as he looked at the doors. He roughly estimated that there were at least 10,000 doors around the pyramid, and most probably several times more than that. To his surprise, Randy shrugged his shoulders and laughed. "They are all doors, and they are all entrances. But they are so many. How can they all be entrances?" Camilla looked at Randy with curiosity. Randy smiled and replied, "There are, in totality, 100,000 entrances to the mine of the dragon lineage human." Just as Randy was explaining the ways of the mine, they suddenly saw some blue-colored rings of light appear on the side of the pyramid, following which, several warriors fell down from them. Bang, bang, bang. Zen recognized that these warriors were the divine-level talents who had passed through the slow arrow area with him. Only about half of them had chosen to stay in the spirit beast area for a while, and the others had decided to walk through it as fast as they could. As a result, they were the first ones to enter the mine. Zen looked at them and saw that they were all carrying golden pickaxes. Something about the tools in their hands caught his eye. "Am I seeing things? Even their mining pickaxes are low-grade fairy weapons." Hearing Zen's words, Randy let out a laugh. "Bro, you seem somewhat ignorant. The mine of the dragon lineage human is completely different from the mines you know of already. Ordinary iron pickaxes cannot be used to dig out the ores in there. Only fairy weapons are strong enough to do so." As far as Zen knew, a normal mine was a place where soil and stones were mixed. He believed however hard those stones were, they would be soft as soil to warriors powerful enough. Why would they need fairy weapons to dig out ores? After the warriors fell, they stood up to their feet and rushed towards the gates of the pyramid once again. Seeing the puzzled expression on Zen's face, Randy shook his head and announced, "Just bear with me, everyone. You will understand everything in a while. Camilla, here, come and take this pickaxe." "What, you want me, a weak girl, to dig out ores too?" Camilla asked unwillingly. Randy naturally didn't care about her nonsense at all. He took out a pickaxe from his space ring and tossed it towards her. Just now, the warriors Zen had seen were holding low-grade fairy weapons, but the pickaxe in the hand of Randy was even more terrifying. It was actually a top-grade fairy weapon. When he thought about how the weapon refiners of the Harlan Divine Kingdom had actually refined such a powerful thing, Zen could only sigh to himself, the gap between the warriors of the Divine Kingdoms and those in the central region is really huge. Callan and Fiona were also distributing pickaxes to the people they had brought with them. On Zen's side, Randy had already distributed pickaxes to Camilla, Barry and Renzo one by one. After that, only he and Zen were left without a pickaxe in their hands. However, Zen heard Randy chuckle as he took out 2 blue pickaxes from his space ring this time. When Zen caught sight of these pickaxes, his eyes flashed once more. These 2 pickaxes could easily be ranked as low-grade sacred weapons. Take it, Thad. It's easy to obtain low-grade sacred weapons in the form of saber or sword. But I've spent an enormous amount of effort obtaining these pickaxes which are low-grade sacred weapons. Randy tossed one of the pickaxes towards Zen. Zen caught the pickaxe in his hand and the strange expression on his face became even more intense as he brandished it. He was thinking about how warriors in the central region would often fight over a sacred weapon, but warriors in the Divine Kingdoms had actually made sacred weapons which were commonplace enough to be used as mining tools. Thad, you don't have to be too weird about this. Our 4 Divine Kingdoms originally wouldn't have wasted materials on pickaxes. But, the Feather Emperor's secret lands mine is very special and rewarding. If we are willing to invest enough amount of money and resources on the pickaxes, we will certainly profit from it. Randy walked towards the pyramid filled with gates. Walking closer to the pyramid, he told everyone, "Let me demonstrate the process to you all. Once you enter any one of the gates, you will fall into the mine." When he spoke, Randy had already entered through a door at the bottom of the pyramid. He then quickly vanished inside. "Hey, Randy, you haven't finished speaking." Camilla pouted her lips as she shouted helplessly behind him. Everyone was also baffled. However, in less than 30 seconds, Randy had descended from a ring of light on the side of the pyramid, just like the other warriors from before. He then appeared in front of everyone. As he came nearer, they saw that he was carrying a fist-sized ore in his hands. He shook it and then laughed. A fire energy crystal. This thing isn't worth too much." After he finished speaking, he casually threw the ore to one side. When he saw this scene, Zen became even more curious. Previously, he hadn't used the memory of the world's will to search for the secrets of the mine. However, upon seeing a fire energy crystal, he couldn't resist this impulse. However, when he searched through his mind, he discovered that there was no memory of this mine within the memory of the world's will. Zen's eyebrows creased at the disappointing result. The world's will was a record of everything that had ever happened in this world. There were very few omissions, but this mine seemed to be one of them. He had no idea where this place had come from. Since he was unable to find any relevant information, Zen decided to investigate on his own. Carrying the pickaxe in his hand, he walked towards one of the doors at the bottom of the pyramid. The moment Zen entered the door in front of him, he immediately found that he was falling crazily through a tunnel. Whoosh! While he was falling, Zen turned around and saw that there seemed to be a huge plant underneath. He was not sure what plant or even what species it was, but it looked huge even from a distance. From the trunk of this plant, several slender branches extended out, and at the end of these branches were several leaves. Regardless of whether he looked at the main stem or at the leaves of the plant, he saw that they were all flickering with a magnificent color. The main hue of this plant was light blue, like a layer of crystal wrapped in the outer layer, but the inner layer was a myriad of particles shining with hundreds of different shades. Wow, what exactly is this thing? Just as this thought appeared in Zen's mind, he directly fell on one of the leaves. These leaves seemed to correspond with the doors of the pyramid outside. Zen raised his head to take a look. He had entered through one of the doors in the bottom layer and had fallen on the leaf at the bottom of the plant, missing several ones above him. The bottom of this leaf seems to contain ores. Could these ores have grown from the body of this plant? Zen's heart skipped a beat. He finally understood what those colorful granules were. They seemed to be ores of all kinds. Zen looked up at the giant tree and awe appeared on his face as he pondered over the plant. There are really so many wonders in this world. I think it isn't the plant itself that produces these ores. Instead, the plant takes the ores out from the bottom of the ground through its roots which then appear here. The leaf under Zen's feet contains several ores, each of a different color. He swept his gaze over them, but did not find any lifestone that he wanted. However, since he had come in, he naturally had to take some of the ores with him. Therefore, he swiped the pickaxe in his hand at the leaf. Crack! With a crisp sound, sparks flew in all directions. When Zen's pickaxe hit the blue-colored leaf, a small crack immediately appeared on it. Even a sacred weapon hadn't completely cracked the leaf. Wow, this is so tough, Zen exclaimed. Randy was right. Even digging the ores with a low-grade sacred weapon seemed to be a bit strenuous. It was highly probable that no pickaxe below the fairy weapon grade could dig the ores out. Chapter 824, Finding the Life Stones. Zen was holding a pickaxe. It was a low-grade sacred weapon, so it wasn't difficult for him to cut open the leaf. As he continuously swung the pickaxe, the crack on the leaf became bigger until it burst open and a few ores of different sizes fell into his hand. These ores weren't considered valuable. Even in the central region they could be considered rare ores, but they weren't top-grade ores. The warriors of Randy's level in the 4 divine kingdoms would casually discard these ores. Zen didn't think like they did. He gathered the ores and saved them in his space ring. He felt hesitant for a while without knowing what to do. Since he had dug up the ores in this leaf, he should be able to choose to leave this place, but he didn't know how. There was neither visible sky nor ground. Zen looked up and saw a warrior 4 to 5 layers higher than him. He was rapidly digging out ores from a leaf. After he finished, he leapt and fell down into the void below. Soon after, a ring appeared out of nowhere, spreading out like a ripple, and the warrior also disappeared within it. That was how he could get out. There was probably a transmission array beneath this tree that would allow a warrior to go out. Zen was prepared to follow suit and jump up, but in that instance he saw that within the scattered roots of the tree there were also some strange-looking ores. This large tree used its main stem to absorb many ores and drive them into its countless branches, and finally the leaves. What will happen if I cut this branch off? Zen thought. He immediately leapt towards a branch. Just as he was about to pull out his long sword, which was a top-grade sacred weapon, a strange force pulled him downwards. It happened so fast that Zen didn't have much time to react. When he came back to his senses, he was already standing outside of the pyramid with his sword and pickaxe in his hands. Randy, on the other hand, stood before him with a smile. He looked at Zen's long sword and chuckled. It seems like you intended to cut off a branch of the tree. Countless people have already tried it before, but no one can do it. Of course, the warriors of the 4 divine kingdoms had been exploring the Feather Holy Sea for so many years that they probably had tried everything Zen could think of. Cutting off a branch was definitely much more efficient than digging through a leaf. But it didn't matter if it was a warrior at the virtual tribulation realm, or a life and death realm warrior, or even a mighty warrior at the soul sea realm, no one could break its branches. Zen smiled, feeling embarrassed. Naturally, he would only learn if he tried on his own. He put his long sword back into his space ring. This time he decided to explore this pyramid more carefully. If my guess is right, when I enter the doors in the bottom layers of this pyramid and excavate the leaves, all the ores I find will be of core quality. The higher up, the better ores I'll find, right? Zen asked. Randy smiled and nodded. That's right. This pyramid has a total of 47 layers, corresponding to the tree's 47 layers of leaves. Every time you enter through a door, you will fall onto a leaf and you will be able to dig the ores within. The higher the door is, the better the ores are. Of course, the difficulty for us to dig the ores will also be higher. Which layer will the life stones be at? Zen suddenly asked. He had come all the way to this continent to find the life stones. He wasn't too interested in the ores, but he still kept some. Randy pointed at the pyramid and said, the distribution of these mineral resources is just a rough estimate. There is no way for us to be precise, but according to our experience, the life stones should be in the 25th layer or above. The higher the layer, the better the ores. We also need better pickaxes to dig the ores in the higher layers. Besides, we may be in danger on some leaves. A light flashed through Zen's eyes as he listened to Randy's words. Since that's the case, I'll go up too. At this time, a group of warriors swarmed over. The one leading them was Frederick, the crown prince of the York Divine Kingdom. A while ago, Frederick confronted the ghost beasts, and to do that he used the powerful heavenly thunder halberd. The combined attack of so many beasts had left him in a sorry state. While the warriors were clamoring, they started to climb the pyramid. They pulled out their pickaxes and entered through the doors of the 20th layer or higher. After they entered, Zen continued to jump on the pyramid, silently counting the number of layers he had climbed. He followed Randy's advice and chose the 25th layer. The higher the layer, the less the doors. There were thousands of doors in the first layer. After reaching the 25th layer, there were less than 100 doors. Zen randomly picked a door and entered. The moment he stepped through the door, he rapidly descended. Soon after, a light flashed before his eyes and he fell onto a leaf. He was standing in the middle section of the tree. Standing here, he could look down and see the leaves on the tree below him. He scanned the area and turned to look at the leaf below his feet. He was looking for life stones, the kind of ancient jade that looked like an egg. He could see that this leaf contained a lot of ores. Each of the ores seemed to contain a strange power. Some of them even had a kind of law power within. Obviously, these ores were much better than those he had obtained before, but all he wanted was to find life stones. Disappointment was written all over Zen's face. There are no life stones in this leaf, he murmured. He was not in the mood to dig for ores, so he decided to leave. He swiftly leapt forward and began to descend rapidly. Not long later he appeared outside of the pyramid again. More and more warriors gathered at the bottom of the pyramid. Randy had probably started excavating for ores as well. This time, Zen couldn't see him. Since he couldn't find life stones in the 25th layer, Zen decided to climb 3 layers higher and went straight to the 28th layer of the pyramid. When Zen reached the 28th layer, the warriors gathered below the pyramid started whispering among themselves while staring at him. This is Thad Luo's first time in this secret land, yet he actually chooses to climb to the 28th layer of the pyramid. That is not strange. He's a powerful warrior. With the strength that he displayed so far, he might be able to contend against some of the life and death realm warriors. So what if he chooses the 28th layer? It is not a big deal for him. I agree with you. It's not dangerous for him at all if he enters the layers below the 30th layer. However, the layers above that are completely different. Amidst the crowd's discussion, Zen walked through a door in the 28th layer. A couple of seconds later, he fell down from the ring of light outside of the pyramid. He felt desperate. Once again he failed to find life stones that he needed in the 28th layer. Zen was feeling rather frustrated by now. He needed a great number of life stones, not just 1 or 2. He estimated that in order to fully replenish Letitia's life energy, he would need at least 1,000 life stones. If he kept going like this, he would be lucky if he could obtain 100 or 200 life stones. After falling from the ring of light, Zen picked himself up, grabbed his pickaxe and climbed up to the 29th layer. What is he trying to do? Probably searching for some sort of ore. This time, Zen landed on one of the leaves in the 29th layer. The moment his feet landed on it, a glint flashed across his eyes and a faint smile appeared on his face. He finally found life stones. This light blue leaf was about 10 feet wide and 5 feet thick. It looked like a huge blue crystal. Sealed within the leaf there were several pieces of egg-like ancient jade. These were the life stones he had been looking for. Zen counted 16 life stones wrapped within this leaf. Although it was far from what he needed, it was still not a small amount. He would gather as many as he could and keep looking through other leaves. What is this? He murmured. In the middle of the life stones there was a shiny object that Zen couldn't identify. He stared at it, puzzled. Chapter 825, Jealousy. The 16 life stones formed a circle around the leaf and wrapped themselves around the glowing object. The said object emitted a blinding flash of light, which made it hard for Zen to figure out what it was. Without giving it much thought, Zen lifted the pickaxe up high into the air. Crack! He already knew that the leaves on the upper layers were thicker and bigger. Their blue color was also more vivid, and their structure was more solid as well. While the leaves were thick, their toughness exceeded Zen's expectations. There were no cracks on the leaf at all when he slammed the pickaxe against it. Zen's eyes widened, and he was clearly astonished. Although he only had a low-grade sacred weapon on him, he could easily split a mountain in half with his strength without having to use his forceful energy. Was the leaf under his feet really so tough? But Zen had finally found these life stones, so he wouldn't give up so easily. As he thought of it, the power of 100 dragon scales burst forth from his body. Then, he picked up the pickaxe again and hit the leaf with it. Crack! When the pickaxe hit the leaf, a small crack appeared on its surface. The leaf is not that hard. A faint smile spread on Zen's face. He continued to swing his pickaxe when he saw that his attack was effective. The cracks spread more with each strike, and on his last blow, it finally shattered. It was only then when Zen removed the broken parts with the pickaxe that the life stones underneath were revealed. The look in Zen's eyes softened as he gazed at the life stones. Letitia was still waiting for him to bring back the life stones to save her life, so he carefully stored them one by one into his space ring. After he was done, he turned his gaze to the shiny object. Zen didn't see through the thick leaf clearly just a while ago, but now he discovered that it was a square crystal. The light inside flickered continuously like water, and reflected a bright, white light. I don't know what kind of ore it is, but I'll take it first. Zen didn't hesitate and placed the shiny ore inside his space ring. Then, he leapt again and descended into the void below. He followed a circle of flashing light and once again, he fell from the side of the pyramid. When Zen finally reached the ground and steadied himself, he was greeted by the sight of Callan, Fiona, and Randy. Randy gave him a faint smile. Just as when he was about to ask Zen if he'd obtained anything, he was disrupted by a loud shriek nearby. Wow, so beautiful. Frederick, you are really very lucky. You even dug out and got a firestone the first time you entered it. Frederick, I'm willing to pay a big price for your firestone. Would you sell it to me? All the fuss immediately caught the attention of Zen, Randy, and the others. They saw Frederick with a round stone in his hand, which seemed to be engulfed in faint flames. It looked absolutely marvelous. Meanwhile, Randy calmly glanced at the stone. Frederick is lucky enough to have obtained a firestone, he told Zen. This firestone was a supreme treasure when it came to refining weapons with fire properties, and it was also quite useful for weapon refiners. It cost warriors in the Harlan Divine Kingdom 5 high-grade sacred weapons in exchange for a single firestone. This is not luck, this is the good destiny of the Crown Prince of our York Divine Kingdom. It's not something that those nobodies can compare to. A divine-level talent of the York Divine Kingdom said coldly. Since Zen had completely made the York Divine Kingdom lose face, even when personal grudges were put aside, the warriors of the York Divine Kingdom naturally grew hostile towards him. If it wasn't for the fact that they weren't strong enough, they would have swarmed over Zen and tore him to pieces by now. When Zen heard them, he simply smiled. Who would have thought that Callan would say, "Isn't it just a firestone? I got one too." Then, he also took out a round stone and tossed it in the air. Upon closer look, Callan's stone seemed larger than Frederick's. Callan's talent was inferior to his sister's, and he was also quite dull. However, he had a lot of luck. It didn't take him too much to dig up such a large firestone. A cold snort passed from Frederick's lips as his gaze shifted to Zen. As the Crown Prince, he didn't say anything, but someone beside him understood what he meant. I wonder what that from the Harlan Divine Kingdom has dug up. Can you let everyone take a look? Someone hissed. A wave of calmness and indifference washed over Zen as he glanced at the group of guys. These divine-level talents were really disgusting. They even competed against the others after they dug up a few ores. Zen didn't really want to use childish words to describe their behavior. But after a while of thought, he didn't bother with them. Although the 4 great divine kingdoms were several times bigger than the central region, there was no war among them. Even killing was a rare occurrence. To be fair though, while the divine-level talents all had first-rate skills, they were far less mature than the warriors in the central region, and hardly comparable to the warriors in the Sea God continent during the period of turmoil. He wondered whether those divine-level talents in the 4 divine kingdoms were lucky, or they just didn't try to make any progress. Zen shook his head and said, "Does whatever I dug up have anything to do with you?" "I won't tell you. It seems that he hasn't found anything valuable. Maybe he is unlucky today and is unwilling to take the stuff out to avoid being embarrassed," that warrior jeered. "You're so boring," Zen said with a roll of his eyes. This group of divine-level talents was so childish, so he vowed to never do such things that would make him look immature as them. At this point however, Fiona silently strode towards them. She suddenly extended a hand towards Zen and said, "Stretch out your hands." "What?" asked Zen, who was stunned. Still, he subconsciously stretched out one hand. "2 hands, Fiona continued. Zen was confused, and wondered what Fiona meant. However, he still stretched out both hands, and curved his fingers. When Fiona was satisfied, she slightly shook her own hands. As she did so, some objects began to fall down one by one from the space ring on her finger, down to Zen's hands. They were life stones. These life stones were different from other ores, and they were easily shattered. While Zen watched the life stones fall out of Fiona's space ring, he held them carefully in his hands, afraid that they would fall to the ground. In just a little while, his hands held more than 20 life stones. "I give them to you," Fiona said with a smile. She was quite a scrupulous woman. After the battle at the West Dragon River had ended, she remembered that Turner said Zen needed the life stones. Up until that moment, she had dug out many life stones, but no one knew whether she actively looked for them, or she unintentionally found them. As for the other things, Zen might reject them, but he would definitely accept the life stones. When the nearby warriors saw Fiona generously give the life stones to Zen, they became green with envy. While the life stones weren't as precious as a fire stone, they were still worth a lot. Zen also didn't want to take Fiona's life stones without giving her anything in return. He'd dug up a dozen or so life stones as well, but he couldn't possibly use them as a gift. While he thought of that, his lips suddenly curved into a smile. He said, "Thank you. But here, I also have something for you." When he collected the life stones earlier, he found a shiny object in the middle of them. Zen wasn't sure what it was. He only thought that it was extremely beautiful with its flickering crystal light, so it was a good idea to give it to Fiona. However, just as when he took the object out, Randy suddenly gasped loudly and violently coughed a few times. He then looked at Zen fearfully and asked, "Thad, are you sure you want to give that thing to Fiona?" The cubic object Zen took out was truly eye-catching, so it instantly drew everyone's attention with its bright, white crystal glow. Almost everyone stared at the strange object in shock, while the divine-level talents looked at it with blatant greed and obvious jealousy. Chapter 826, Climbing Up. Zen didn't know the value of this stone. He thought of the stone as a simple trinket he could give to Fiona in return for her gift to him. However, based on the reactions of everyone around them, there was clearly something more to this seemingly simple stone. Could it perhaps be something very valuable? Seeing that Zen remained silent, Randy swallowed and continued to ask, "Zen, are you sure about this?" Of course, Zen replied as if he was merely giving a simple dish rag away. "But the value of this thing is immeasurable," Randy reminded him. He wanted to tell Zen that the life stones were completely incomparable to the cubic stone he was currently giving away, but he didn't want to be too straightforward and make things awkward. "I came here for the life stones. This cube thing isn't really important, so here you go, Fiona," Zen said, throwing the shiny, cubic stone to the princess. Many of the other warriors wanted to stretch out their hands and catch the stone, but Zen had thrown it in such a way that it precisely went to Fiona's direction and no one else was able to get it. Meanwhile, Frederick and several of his friends wore visible scowls on their faces. They were most likely jealous of this good opportunity, but they couldn't just go up to Fiona and take the stone. After all, the rules of the 4 divine kingdoms were much stricter than those of the central region. They knew what would come to them if they broke the rules. Fiona caught the cube with her soft, gentle hands. "Thad, do you really have no idea what this is?" Zen shrugged and shook his head. "Nope." Fiona let out a bell-like laugh at his casual dismissal of the cube. "You really aren't from our 4 divine kingdoms." Zen didn't recognize the stone meant that Zen was most likely not someone from around here, but it wasn't really important. Fiona simply meant it as a passing remark. Zen smiled in silence. He now started to think that he might have indeed excavated something special. "This shining stone is the Eye of Jalen. You know what? This is way too precious. I can't accept this." Fiona then tossed the cube back at Zen before smiling at Randy. "Lord Randy, it's better that you explain it to him. The Harlan Divine Kingdom knows it best." Randy smiled at Fiona's display of kindness and tact. He turned to Zen and began to tell him of what this cube was. "Even the best weapon refiners in our Harlan Divine Kingdom are only able to forge semi-divine weapons. Even if they used up all the kingdom's resources, they could never hope to forge a real divine weapon." The Harlan Divine Kingdom was well known for its expertise in weapon forging and refining. It was considered the best out of all the 4 divine kingdoms, but even they could only produce semi-divine weapons, which meant that nobody was able to forge a divine weapon within the 4 divine kingdoms. Until one day, a life and death realm master excavated a shiny stone from the Feather Emperor's secret land. The stone was first considered useless since it couldn't be merged with the weapons. However, it had interesting properties that tickled the fancy of the weapon refiners. It was extremely tough and no weapon could ever break it. It was also resistant against fire and lightning corrosion. The useless stone might not really be useless after all. It took a while to figure out how special this stone actually was until a weapon refiner named Jalen Zhang was finally able to unveil the mystery behind it. He was the one who used it to refine the first divine weapon of the 4 divine kingdoms. They named the stone after him and called it the Eye of Jalen. However, this refiner didn't have an easy life and suffered many mishaps. Every time a warrior brought back an Eye of Jalen from the Feather Emperor's secret land, it signaled the birth of another divine weapon for the 4 divine kingdoms. There had been 7 recorded instances of people bringing home an Eye of Jalen from the Feather Emperor's secret land, which meant there were 7 divine weapons that were forged in the 4 divine kingdoms. The Eye of Jalen was a key component in producing a divine weapon. It could even be said that there could not be a divine weapon if there was no Eye of Jalen. The value of an Eye of Jalen was equal to the value of a divine weapon. If one looked at it this way, then the mere cube stone that Zen found was actually special and extremely valuable. No wonder everyone's eyes burned with passion at the sight of the stone. Not anyone could simply acquire a divine weapon. Frederick, who was the crown prince of York Divine Kingdom, did not have one. The Crown Prince of Wind Divine Kingdom did not possess such a weapon, either. Not even Bram, who was the Crown Prince of the Harlan Divine Kingdom, the kingdom considered the best at weapon refining, had one. Bringing back an Eye of Jalen raised the possibility of obtaining a divine weapon. They would also be greatly rewarded for simply bringing the stone home. It was a pity for those that were unable to find the Eye of Jalen first. Zen dug the cubic stone out and it rightfully belonged to him. The other princes wouldn't dare to openly rob him. Still, that could not be said for the divine level talents from the martial houses. They were the ones who were willing to fight tooth and nail for something that could give them high rewards. But were they even qualified to rob Zen? He might not be royalty, but he was still too strong for these divine level talents. They would never stand a chance against him. These divine level talents knew there was no use in fighting a battle they could never win. Randy's explanation enlightened Zen on the importance of the stone, but he remained calm. Truth be told, a divine weapon did not matter much to him. For Zen, there was no point in an excellent weapon if one's body was subpar. Seeing that Fiona would not accept his gift, Zen simply put the stone in his space ring to think about later. I'm going to continue mining, Zen said cheerfully. Randy nodded, okay, but make sure to stay below the 30th floor. Zen looked at him in puzzlement. Why? It's too dangerous for virtual tribulation realm warriors to explore the 30th floor and the floors above it. Only life and death realm warriors can go there, Randy explained. The tree had 47 floors. Floors above 30 were for the life and death realm warriors, while those above 40 were exclusively for the soul sea realm masters. Only the floors below the 30th floor were suitable for virtual tribulation realm warriors. The higher the floor, the higher the quality of ores. However, the leaves above the 30th floor were extremely hard and strong. Virtual tribulation realm warriors simply did not have the capacity to break them. Afraid to go to the 30th floor? Haven't you already defeated that little monster? Why would you be scared of anything now? Frederick jeered as he scurried up the pyramid. He carried an unusual mining pickaxe with two horns at the front and back that continuously erupted with flames. This mining pickaxe was actually a top-grade sacred weapon. As if to drive a point, Frederick leapt up and went directly to the pyramid's 30th floor, entering through a narrow door at the side. Ignore him, Randy said. You can find enough life stones without going to the 30th floor. He tried to pass it off casually, but in truth, he was worried about Zen taking Frederick's bait and also climbing up the 30th floor. Zen smiled. He wasn't a fool. Of course he knew the implications behind Frederick's dare. Besides, he had to search for as many life stones as he could with the limited time they were given. So, without wasting any more of his precious mining time, Zen leapt up to the 29th floor once again to search for more life stones. His luck wasn't so bad. He didn't get that much on his second try but found a lot on his third attempt. He gathered all the life stones he found and put them all inside his space ring. The life stones usually appeared in a cluster. Finding one life stone meant finding a dozen of them all at once. There were at least a dozen of them in a cluster, and sometimes there would be as many as several dozens in one discovery. With this knowledge, Zen continuously went in the narrow doors of the 29th floor and fell out from the light circles 10, 20, 30 times. His tenacity rewarded him with 200 to 300 life stones, but he didn't feel that it was enough. He had turned over every single leaf on the 29th floor, so he knew there wouldn't be any more. The 28th floor gave him a small pile while the 27th gave him nothing at all. As time passed, Zen had only been able to hit 1/4 of his goal. He glanced up the 30th floor and Randy's voice echoed in his mind about how difficult the floor was for virtual tribulation realm warriors to explore. He wasn't an ordinary virtual tribulation realm warrior, so he figured that maybe he had a shot. He wasn't all that interested in exploring the 30th floor earlier, but now that he got all possible life stones on the 29th floor, he figured that there was really nowhere to go but up. Chapter 827, Trade. When Zen came out of the pyramid, he was preparing to set off for the 30th floor. Every time Zen stepped out, he would find a large crowd gathering and discussing things. It was interesting. Zen wondered why they didn't seize the opportunity to explore the pyramid. What were they all doing there? Eventually, Zen discovered that they were all gathering to trade for ores. Although it was unknown where the large tree sucked the ores from, those ores found in the pyramid were all unique. Through an exchange, the warriors could pick out what they needed. Just as Zen prepared to climb up, an idea dawned on him. When Zen walked over to the group, all the people suddenly fell silent. Having been a sensation with his previous performance, he certainly left a deep impression on the divine level talents of the younger generation. Unbothered by their reaction, he brought out some ores from his space ring and piled them up on the ground. Whoever has life stones can exchange them for my ores. Many of these divine-level talents had explored the floors above the 20th. But at most, they could only reach the 26th floor. None of them were strong enough to break the hard leaves further up, so they never brought back any ores from the higher floors. As Zen wandered the 29th floor, apart from the life stones, he found some other ores of good shapes and beautiful colors. He took those he could with him in his space ring. With the help of the pickaxe, which was a sacred weapon, and some power of the dragon scales, digging the ores out wasn't a particularly difficult task for Zen. The higher the floor he reached, the better the ores he could find. But most of them wouldn't be of any real use to Zen. There were some rare ores among them, with the value not less than that of life stones. It was no surprise how many of the warriors' eyes immediately lit up with excitement the minute Zen threw out the stones he found in the pyramid. Some of the ores were exactly what they needed. The pile of ores were undoubtedly attractive. One of the warriors even pointed to the pile and offered, "I don't have any life stones. Name a price for this jade green ore. I can buy it with my supreme life vitality crystals." These divine-level talents came from 5th grade noble clans. There was no doubt that all of them were extremely rich. While they didn't have any life stones, they did have more than enough supreme life vitality crystals. Shaking his head, Zen declined, "My ores are not for sale. If you want anything, you need to bring me life stones in exchange for it." Disbelief painted the warrior's face upon hearing Zen's words. The next moment, he shouted out, 200 supreme life vitality crystals. Zen didn't even bat an eyelid. He didn't want to explain his words to him twice. 300 supreme life vitality crystals. As the martial artist saw Zen's indifference, he felt rather humiliated, which pushed him to increase the price by half. Still, the expression on Zen's face remained the same. 400. The warrior increased the price by another 100. In truth, the price of the turquoise was worth around 500 supreme life vitality crystals in the market. Since this was where the ores originated, the turquoise would naturally cost much less than in the market. However, Zen was unmoved. He looked at the group and said, "I don't have much time. If anyone has life stones, you can trade them for something I have." "Kid, what do you mean? The price I offered isn't low." The prospective buyer's expression significantly darkened after Zen's remark. Realizing that he had been completely ignored by the boy, his face turned red out of rage. Young martial artists at his age cared too much about their self-pride. Being ignored by others was something intolerable for such people. Hearing the martial artist's question, Zen smiled with derision. Staring at the man, his frustration grew. "Was I not clear enough? I said, only for trade, not for sale. I'll say it again. If you want it, then give me life stones in return. If you have no life stones, please don't mess around." It was only then that the warrior realized that the kid in front of him was someone who even a powerful warrior at the Soul Sea realm didn't dare to provoke. How could a mere warrior like him dare to push him further? His face turned pale with embarrassment at Zen's words. In the end, he disgracefully retreated to the side. Just as he exited, another one said to Zen, "I have 10 life stones. I want to exchange them for the green mist stone. How about it?" The surface of the green ore at Zen's feet looked rather transparent, but if one examined closely, one would find that its center looked fuzzy and misty. With a light smile, Zen agreed, "Okay, it's a deal." After a light tap of his finger, the green mist stone flew toward the warrior. As long as he knew that the warrior wouldn't go back on his word, Zen could rest easy. As for whether or not the 10 life stones were a worthy trade for the green mist stone, that was not Zen's concern in the least. The warrior knew full well how powerful Zen was, so how would he dare fool him? In an instant, he took out 10 life stones and gave them to Zen. The warrior was overjoyed. Clearly, he had made a good bargain. When some of the martial artists saw this, they secretly cursed Zen for his idiocy. He was on a huge losing end of the deal, but no one would go tell him the truth. "Anyone else who possesses the life stone can trade with me." Seeing the others' expressions, Zen could tell what they were thinking. But the life stones were his priority. He was willing to get as many as he could, no matter the cost. Seeing how easy the transaction went, some of the warriors were also tempted. Although there weren't many life stones within the range they had explored, a few warriors managed to find some. One of the warriors pointed at the golden ore at Zen's feet and said, "I have 6 life stones, can I exchange these for the golden one?" Just as Zen was about to nod his head in agreement, a crisp voice cut through, 6 life stones for pure gold, how shrewd you are at this business." It was Camilla, who had just come out from the light circle. It was a shock to see Zen so casually throw a pile of ores on the ground in exchange for mere life stones. Amongst the pile of ores from Zen, the gold ore had the highest value. Such a large piece of gold could sell for at least 4,000 supreme life vitality crystals. The face of the warrior who made the offer sank upon hearing Camilla's interjection. However, Camilla didn't show the slightest hint of fear. Instead, she coldly returned, "What? You want to pick a fight? Thad can stab you to death with just a single finger. If you want to exchange this for pure gold, you have to take out at least 80 life stones." Hearing Camilla use him to threaten the warrior so openly, Zen's face turned helpless. He couldn't expect the warrior to bring out 80 life stones. Even he only had 6, to save Letitia's life, however, he wouldn't hesitate to accept the offer. In return, the warrior could only grit his teeth and say, "I don't have that many life stones. I only have 12 in my hand. You have 12, yet you only prepared to take out 6 to exchange for pure gold. You wanted to take advantage of the fact that Thad isn't familiar with these ores, didn't you? Well, do you want this one? It's a golden warm stone." Bending over and picking up a slender golden ore, Camilla waved it at the warrior. With his trick so easily seen through, the warrior was humiliated. Before he could say a word, she said, "How about this, 3,500 supreme life vitality crystals plus the 12 life stones in your hands for the golden warm stone. No other price." He could have obtained the pure gold with only 6 life stones, but this woman messed it all up for him. How could he not be frustrated? And he did intend to use the remaining 6 life stones to exchange for the golden warm stone. Unfortunately, he couldn't do anything to Camilla. Still, as he calculated 3,500 supreme life vitality crystals, plus the 12 life stones for the golden warm stone, he couldn't deny that there was a chance of profit margin in the deal. In the end, he gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, deal." After the deal was sealed, Zen took the 12 life stones from her hands, leaving the life vitality crystals. "Thank you. This is your reward, I don't need them." How stupid. Stuffing the supreme life vitality crystals in Zen's hands, she continued, "Besides trading your ores for life stones, you can also use supreme life vitality crystals to buy life stones from others. They're usually found in clusters. There are at least 8 or 10 of them in Discovery, rarely 6 in a cluster. He said that he had 6 of them, so obviously he hid some from you." Camilla's analysis left Zen rather stunned. The woman was much more shrewd than he had imagined. However, Zen couldn't be blamed for it. He had no knowledge of the market price of the ores. Since Camilla was a martial artist from the Harlan Divine Kingdom, she had been exposed to such materials and could distinguish them since she was at a young age. These ores were produced in Feather Holy Sea, and Zen failed to look up any information on them in the memories of the Great World's Will. "Since you saved me before, I'll help you exchange the life stones right here." With a smile, Camilla added, "But you'll have to pay me commissions for every deal I make." Chapter 828. Living off ores. Zen was extremely pleased to have such a shrewd woman like Camilla help him take care of the ores. The value of the ores did not matter and he could care less about the commission. "I'll leave this to you then," he told her before he left. Camilla knew her own strength. Her might as a martial artist only allowed her to mine treasures from the 19th to 20th floors, but even if she worked hard, it was highly unlikely for her to find anything good. It was better for her to stay and take care of Zen's ores. Maybe it was in business that she'd be able to display her talents more. She smiled gracefully at the people that waited in front of her. "My friends, you can choose as you please. You can also enjoy a preferential price. But the life stones come first." The warriors rolled their eyes. Besides the first person who managed to bag a good bargain, they all knew that the rest of them were already one step behind. It was fortunate that the price charged wasn't too outrageous, so a lot of them still surrounded Camilla and her wares. Zen, on the other hand, was already busy climbing the pyramid. Soon enough, he reached the 30th floor. The 30th floor was usually reserved for life and death realm masters, but Zen would take his chance today. He easily passed through the narrow door and found himself landing on one of the leaves. The leaves on the 30th floor were twice as wide as those on the 29th floor. Here, the higher the leaves were, the larger, darker, and harder they were to break. Zen had gone inside the 30th floor for treasure, but as soon as he landed on the leaf, he immediately felt a strong wave of killing intent. Squeak, squeak, squeak. He wasn't alone. Beside him was a large insect that had been sitting quietly on the leaf before he arrived. The insect had 6 legs and was as tall as 2 people combined. It had a pair of brown, compound eyes and abdominal scales that shone and flickered with green light. Zen carefully stood up from his spot, keen to avoid the insect's wrath, but even the slightest movement was enough to alert the bug. It immediately pounced towards him. Zen frowned upon seeing this giant bug. He thought that all the creatures in the Feather Holy Sea had perished in the blood sacrifice. What was a living bug doing here? Crack! The bug had thrust its spear-like foreleg towards Zen and pierced a clean hole through the leaf. That front leg is sharp. What a great power, he thought to himself. And indeed, the bug's leg was no joke. Back in the 29th floor, Zen would need to activate more than 100 dragon scales to be able to break the leaves with his mining pickaxe, which was already a low-level sacred weapon. The 30th floor surely had tougher leaves than the ones below. But this bug was able to make a hole on the leaf with just the use of its own leg, which meant that it was probably as sharp as a sacred weapon. This six-legged insect was probably no weaker than an ordinary life and death realm warrior. Zen now understood why Randy had mentioned that the 30th floor was not a place for ordinary virtual tribulation realm warriors to explore. The bug was not deterred when it missed Zen. It spread its wings and quickly charged towards him, eager to land and attack this time. Thankfully, Zen's quick reflexes allowed him to dodge the sharp forelegs that thrust towards him. Back in the eastern region, Zen had dealt with a lot of blade locusts and, though the strength of those locusts was nothing compared to that of the bug in front of him, he learned something valuable from his experience. An insect's weakness was in its abdomen. The moment the bug raised its awl-like forelegs, Zen took his chance to get close to its abdomen and strike it with his palm. As his forceful energy burst out, the strike shattered the green abdominal scales that protected the bug's belly with a loud cracking sound. His move was quick and clean. Squeak squeak. It let out a shrill cry and quickly spread its wings and retreated backward. Without the green scales, the bug's abdomen now appeared in front of him. Its belly seemed to be transparent and Zen noticed that it was filled with numerous, colorful ores. Does this bug live off ores? Is this thing a creature? Knowing the treasures it held in its stomach, Zen couldn't just let this bug get away. His figure flashed, and he didn't slow down in the slightest to chase it. Since this bug had quite a few ores within it, he didn't need to search for them one by one on the leaves. However, just as he was about to chase it down, the bug waved its wings and jumped onto another leaf. The bug was so cunning. Zen had lost his chance. Leaving the leaf wasn't the ideal option. There was a strong gravitational force that would pull him down and make him fall out through the light circle. He'd have to climb up the pyramid again in order to enter through the narrow door. There was no way he could follow the bug by jumping from one leaf to another, as he was unable to resist the huge gravitational force. Squeak, squeak. The bug was cunning and also intelligent. It actually raised its two spear-like forelegs in an attempt to mock Zen now that it knew the young man couldn't easily follow to the next leaf. The mockery made him scoff. Zen was someone who possessed strong will. He would not care if some warriors provoked him, so he could more or less ignore the provocations from this oversized bug. A good amount of ores remained on the leaf, so he began to search if he could find life stones there. If the bug ever dared to come over, Zen would make sure to catch it. A quick search throughout the leaf's surface yielded no evidence of any life stones. However, there were still a lot of beautiful and eye-catching ores around, so Zen wasted no time and quickly got to work. He waved his mining pickaxe and quickly dug them out. The leaf was tougher than the ones on the 29th floor, but still very much within the range that Zen could handle. He only needed to activate 300 dragon scales in order to break through the leaf. Meanwhile, the bug continued its activities on the leaf next to him. The bug would use its sharp, front legs to cleanly poke a hole on the leaf, then it would lower its head to swallow the uncovered ore in one gulp. Sure enough, this big bug lives off ores. Zen's eyes couldn't help but glance at the bug's transparent abdomen. Now that he looked at it carefully, he noticed about a dozen life stones that were mixed in with the other numerous ores inside the bug's belly. There were at least 50 to 60 in total. Zen couldn't help but clench his fists at the sight. Life stones. A decision had been made in Zen's head the moment he saw those stones in the bug's belly. He must kill it. He had to do it for the life stones. With this in mind, Zen willingly jumped down from the leaf and took a look at the bug. It didn't seem to care about anything else other than the ores that it kept munching on. Shortly after falling into the light circle, Zen appeared at the side of the pyramid. He was just about to climb back up when he heard Camilla's voice call out to him, "Thad. I've already gotten 10 life stones for you, as well as 2,000 Supreme Life Vitality Crystals." The divine level talents had a lot of Supreme Life Vitality Crystals but not many life stones. Zen nodded in approval before tapping his space ring. 7 to 8 ores shot out towards Camilla instantly just as he charged straight up to the pyramid. violet crystal, crescent moon stone, and jade heart stone. Camilla listed down the ores, names before they landed in front of her. It was an effective marketing strategy as the other warriors instantly rushed towards her. The jealousy was apparent in their faces as they looked at the ores. What kind of luck does this Thad have? Even if he's on the 30th floor, it would be impossible for him to dig out so many valuable ores in just one go. A few others have also entered the 30th floor, but they only got a few ordinary items and 2 broken pickaxes. Why is he so lucky? He's strong, powerful, and he also has good fortune. It's so unfair. If someone was able to attain something through strength and willpower, people would usually admire him. However, if someone achieved something through luck, people would often feel jealous and moan about the unfairness of life. They did not know that luck could also be considered as strength for a rare group of people in this world. Meanwhile, Zen was already on his way. He had to quickly kill that bug and get the stones. He quickly located the narrow door he had gone through earlier and entered the one right next to it. Each door corresponded to a leaf, and taking the door next to the one he entered earlier meant he would be able to land on the leaf that the bug was on. If he was fast enough, the bug would still be busy eating ores and he could get his chance in eliminating it. Chapter 829, Threat. Zen rushed through the narrow door and fell straight down. His gaze was fixed on the leaf. The big bug was eating the ore in the leaf. 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 100 feet. Power had already begun to accumulate in Zen's fists. Die. Zen attacked. He was desperate for the life stones. Even if there was only one life stone in the bug's body, he would kill for it. The strike contained the impact of the fall. Meanwhile, Zen also activated the power of 500 dragon scales. He went straight for the bug's back. However, as he approached it, the bug seemed to have a premonition. It stomped its 2 hind legs and evaded the punch by flipping to one side. Bam! Zen's fist slammed forcefully onto the leaf. The giant leaf, along with the stem, began to tremble. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The bug, who was now 20 feet away from Zen, waved its sharp forelegs, provoking him. Zen looked at the leaf beneath his feet. His punch had already made quite a few cracks on it. He swept his gaze over it but could not find the life stone. His body was as hard as a sacred weapon and possessed terrifying strength. He could break the leaves on the 30th layer without using a pickaxe. Of course, it would be easier using one. You want to provoke me? Light flashed in Zen's eyes as a look of determination came on his face. He bent his legs slightly. Although the huge bug was quick and nimble, Zen was confident of catching it. The bug was still waving its forelegs and squeaking, almost mocking him. Suddenly Zen leapt, covering the distance between them in a flash, his outstretched arms ready to grab the bug. The huge bug was even more agile than life and death realm warriors. Its perception of danger seemed to come entirely from its instinct. Even though Zen had deployed a strategy to attack it, the bug still sensed danger through its incredibly strong sense of smell. Before Zen could launch another attack, it spread its wings, preparing to leave the leaf and flee. You're going nowhere, Zen said. In that split second, the forceful energy within his body erupted, and his body was propelled forward 2 feet. Zen's body left the leaf. At the same time, the invisible falling force began to pull at his body. But the moment Zen was pulled down by that huge force, his hand had already grabbed one of the big bug's hind legs. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The large bug was persistently trying to kick Zen off. But his grip was strong. The big bug would not be able to escape his hold. This big bug wasn't affected by the gravitational pull and could freely fly among the leaves. But the gravitational force was pulling Zen down, who was holding onto the bug's leg, and, in turn, dragging it down a little too. The large bug flapped its wings desperately to prevent itself from being pulled down with Zen, but the irresistible gravitational force finally managed to drag it down along with Zen. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Driven by instinct, the bug continued to fly at full speed, causing both of them to spin while rapidly dropping altitude. Lord Randy was still on a leaf of the 27th layer, painstakingly excavating the ores. There was a priceless mist stone buried underneath the leaf. The Lord had resolved to get it no matter what. When he swung his pickaxe again, he suddenly saw a shadow pass over him and then it circled him once. He was alarmed. The rules in this space were extremely strict. A Soul Sea Realm warrior couldn't fly or resist the falling force. However, Lord Randy had clearly seen a figure fly above him just now. So he hurriedly walked to the edge of the leaf and checked out the surroundings. Then his face was full of astonishment. Thad. He saw Zen hanging onto a large, emerald green bug encircling the tree. What's going on? Lord Randy asked, feeling a little dizzy at the sight. At least 2/3 of the warriors were painstakingly digging for ore in the leaves of the tree. Most of the divine level talents were witnessing this strange scene. It looks like Thad. Why is he hanging off a mineral devouring bug? It's unbelievable. How did he catch a mineral devouring bug? As far as I can remember, only Soul Sea Realm warriors have ever been able to catch these bugs. As the crowd watched, Zen's figure rapidly descended until he reached the bottom of the tree and disappeared into the light circle. Soon, he, dragging the bug, appeared on one side of the pyramid. Camilla was happily bargaining with the martial artist in front of her. She believed he had at least 10 life stones. She knew that Zen valued life stones, so she was determined to get all of them from the martial artist even if she ended up losing some money in this deal. She suddenly heard a violent noise followed by the sharp, urgent sound of an insect. She turned her head to look, and her eyes widened in shock when she saw the insect. Thad. That's a mineral devouring bug, she exclaimed. It also drew the attention of the warriors, who were trading ores outside the pyramid. After passing through space, Zen was no longer affected by the strong gravitational force. The large bug spread its wings and flew higher into the sky, pulling him up with it. No way was Zen going to let this darn bug succeed. He took a deep breath and started wriggling upwards and climbed onto the back of the huge bug. Swoosh, swoosh. The large bug was quick to react, even quicker than most life and death realm experts. It twisted its 2 forelegs and tried to stab Zen. In your dreams, Zen jeered. He swayed and dodged the attack. Using his hand as a blade he slashed the back of the large bug. PFF'd. Zen had managed to tear off the shell on the back of the large bug. As a result, its wings broke and it plummeted downwards. Slam. Zen turned his body slightly and bent his left leg. He pressed his knee down on the head of the big bug. The moment the big bug fell to the ground, Zen crushed its head. Its vitality was also very tenacious. Even without its head, it continued to swing its 6 feet, struggling for a long time before its legs slowly stiffened, and its life gradually ended. Zen dusted off his clothes and jumped off the dead bug. Camilla rushed to him. She had been in such a hurry she didn't even have the time to transfer the pile of ores on the ground into her space ring. Instead, she just wrapped the ores haphazardly in her clothes. Thad, how did you catch a mineral devouring bug? She asked wide-eyed. Oh, is that a mineral devouring bug? Zen asked. By now Lord Randy had also hurried over from the circle of light. He noticed that Zen had already subdued the mineral devouring bug. He was happy and surprised at the same time. Not just the Lord, but even the other practitioners in the mining tree had left the light circle and rushed over to Zen to see what the hubbub was all about. When Lord Randy heard Zen's question, he laughed loudly and replied, "That's right, Thad. That is a mineral devouring bug. It devours ores from the tree." Zen looked at the divine level talents, who were rushing over, with a strange expression on his face. Even though it is a mineral devouring bug, it couldn't be valuable. It only has some ores in its stomach, he thought. Before he could voice his thoughts, someone nearby said, "Zen, I would advise you not to touch this mineral devouring bug. Otherwise, you'll be dead for sure." Chapter 830, The Soul Core. Zen frowned upon hearing those words. It was the voice of Frederick, the Crown Prince of the York Divine Kingdom. He was not afraid of the threat Frederick posed. After all, among the divine-level geniuses that were there, not one had the strength to threaten him. Even Frederick was not qualified to do that. Zen's strength was not on the same level as these divine-level talents, his was greater. This was a fact that many divine-level talents and princes were unwilling to admit. Since Frederick had dared to threaten him the way he did, then this mineral-devouring bug might not just be a simple bug. There must be a secret hidden within it. Smiling faintly, Zen's gaze landed on Frederick. "I'll be dead, but how will I die, Frederick? Care to elaborate?" Frederick also observed the mineral-devouring bug for a while. He really did not expect that Zen would be able to catch it with his hands. "It's the green kind," he thought to himself, breathing shallowly because of his anger. After a few moments of silence, Frederick smiled back at Zen. He then replied, "This kind of mineral-devouring bug is captured by the Soul Sea Realm Masters every year. When did it become your turn to capture it? You're unqualified to do that." Zen's gaze immediately shifted to Randy. Randy nodded and told Zen, "The mineral-devouring bug's number is small. There are only about 30 to 40 of them appearing each year. Even the Life and Death Realm Masters have difficulty capturing those bugs, and usually, it would only be the Soul Sea Realm Masters from the 4 great divine kingdoms who would be able to catch them." "Is this bug very important?" he asked. In his mind, the mineral-devouring bug was peculiar. As its name suggested, devouring ores was its main thing, but aside from that, it was also incomparably agile. Its reaction to the things happening around it was blazing fast. Zen traveled through space as he was trying to catch it, and even with almost no time to react, the bug was still able to avoid him. However, he didn't believe that these bugs were worth the Soul Sea Realm Master's troubles. That made him curious. Yes, the ores in these bugs' stomachs might be valuable, but that still wasn't enough to attract the Soul Sea Realm Master's attention, practically making them obsessed with it. Yes, Randy replied with an understanding smile on his lips. These mineral-devouring bugs have a special ability. They can cut any leaf on the giant tree. What? So what if it can do that? Zen asked, now more confused than ever. Randy knew that Zen would ask this question, and so he continued to explain, only the Life and Death Realm warriors would be able to enter the 30th layer and those above it. The reason is that they might encounter mineral-devouring bugs. Those creatures pose an incredible threat to the Virtual Tribulation Realm warriors. Because of that, the Virtual Tribulation Realm warriors who aren't that powerful are not allowed to enter those layers. As for the 40th layer and the above, only Soul Sea Realm Masters could enter them mainly because in those layers, there is a high chance of encountering purple mineral-devouring bugs. Those are the matured versions of green mineral-devouring bugs, and they are incredibly strong. Now, from the 45th layer to the 47th layer, the top layers, some extremely valuable ores could be found. One of the most important of them is called the Soul Core, and it is very important to the 4 great divine kingdoms. One might even consider it as the most important thing in the 4 divine kingdoms. However, no one can obtain that as not even a Soul Sea Realm Master can slash through the leaves of those 3 layers. Even a Soul Sea Realm Master can't reach and dig the leaves of the top layers. Zen repeated, visibly surprised. As he learned that new information, his eyes began to narrow. It was known that Zen, in particular, had witnessed the immense strength of a Soul Sea Realm Master several times. The most recent one was when he was attacked by War Emperor York. The force of his punch alone was able to destroy everything in its path, and that included a mountain range. If someone like War Emperor York wouldn't be able to slash through the leaves of the top layers of this tree, no one would be able to. This was not a secret to the 4 divine kingdoms, however. The divine-level talents who were present looked calm and didn't show any kind of surprise. Callan and Fiona, however, were both astonished. They hadn't explored the Feather Holy Sea before, and although they knew about the 4 secret lands, they didn't know much about the actual situation in them. Yes, but the mineral-devouring bug, my friend, which is under your feet, can easily slash through those. That is why this creature is so important to the people here, Randy further explained, smiling. He then added, as for soul cores, since this kind of green mineral-devouring bug usually stays on the 30th floor, it is less likely that it has a soul core inside it. But every time the Feather Emperor's secret land is opened, both green and purple mineral-devouring bugs would be killed. As Randy's eyes bored into Zen's, he asked him, now, do you understand? Zen nodded. He now fully understood what was happening. The Soul Sea Realm Masters could not slash through the leaves on the top layers, but they were in sore need of the soul cores. Thus they could only place their hopes on these mineral-devouring bugs. Every year, they hunted these creatures in order to obtain those precious cores. On one hand, they wanted to drive the insects away from the tree, but on the other hand, they also wanted to get the soul cores from their bodies. The emperors do not prohibit others from killing mineral-devouring bugs, right? Zen suddenly asked. Randy shook his head and replied, no. But that was only because an ordinary virtual tribulation realm warrior wouldn't have the skill and strength to catch a mineral-devouring bug. Actually, even a divine-level talent who belonged on the first tier or even a warrior as powerful as Fiona or Little Monster had little chance of catching such a creature. Only the powerful Life and Death Realm warriors and some Soul Sea Realm Masters had a fighting chance in catching mineral-devouring bugs. Because of that, those Life and Death Realm warriors and the Soul Sea Realm Masters would usually hunt the bugs together. They didn't set a rule that would prevent other people from hunting the mineral-devouring bugs because no one else could, except for them. Well, if there is no such prohibition, why can't I kill this bug? Zen asked, turning his gaze to Frederick. His eyes didn't have any kind of emotion in them, he was indifferent. Being under Zen's mysteriously intense gaze, Frederick couldn't help but feel a shudder run up his spine. If this guy didn't feel a single drop of fear towards Frederick's father, how could he be afraid of Frederick, the mere crown prince of a divine kingdom? Glaring back at Zen, he shrieked, humph. Even if you obtain a soul core from this mineral-devouring bug, I'm afraid you won't have the guts to take it yourself. In response to Frederick's obviously hollow threat, Zen only faintly smiled. With a light tap of his finger, a long sword shot out from his space ring. With the long sword in his hand, he cut the abdomen of the mineral-devouring bug beneath his foot. The only thing in his mind right now was obtaining the life stones inside the creature's body. The defensive power of the mineral-devouring bug's scales was extremely astonishing. Under Zen's sword strike, only a row of scales were shattered. After the second sword strike, however, Zen was finally able to break into its stomach. Clink, clank, the amount of food inside the bug was shockingly huge as well. After Zen was able to cut through to its stomach, all sorts of ores flowed out of it in an instant. People estimated that 300 ores came out of the creature. The hundreds of divine-level talents were all staring wide-eyed at the bug's abdomen where ores were continuously flowing out. Although there were indeed numerous ores, which were all extremely precious, coming out of it, at that moment, what they were highly anticipating for was whether or not Zen would be able to find a soul core inside the bug. They were all highly skeptical about it, however. First of all, green mineral-devouring bugs rarely stayed at the top of the trees, and second, if there was a small chance of finding a soul core inside a purple mineral-devouring bug's body, there was even a lower chance that a green mineral-devouring bug would have it inside it. Another key point in all of these was that a year might have passed since the mineral-devouring bug devoured a soul core from a leaf on the top layers, and it would have already fully digested it. So, if a short while before the Feather Emperor's secret land opened, a green or purple mineral-devouring bug flew up to the 45th layer or higher layers, dug out a soul core, swallowed it but still hadn't digested it when a Soul Sea Realm Master captured it, then the soul core would still be there and the Soul Sea Realm Master would have the honor of obtaining it for his or her divine kingdom. However, in the span of a few years, it had already become too difficult even for the most powerful warriors to obtain a single soul core despite slaughtering several hundred mineral-devouring bugs. As the ores in the bug's stomach slowly flowed out of it along with its bodily fluids, Randy's eyes started to show a hint of disappointment. However, Zen only smiled as he continued watching what was happening. Seriously, he asked, "What's wrong, Lord Randy? No soul core?" Randy nodded and replied, "No soul core." Zen didn't care about that too much. First, it still wasn't clear to him what the function of the soul core truly was, and second, he was currently focused on finding life stones. A soul core was not a life stone, so he couldn't care any less about it. Although this mineral-devouring bug apparently didn't have a soul core in its stomach, the sheer amount of life stones it had made Zen incredibly satisfied. After a few moments, he turned to Camilla, who was beside him, and smiled. "Could you please help me sell these items?" he said pleadingly. Camilla's eyes widened, and as a response, she pouted and said, "What the heck? No, they're so dirty and disgusting." Of course, Zen would not let a woman do such a dirty job. Chuckling, he personally took out the ores one by one from the mineral-devouring bug's body fluids. Chapter 831, Not Enough. Zen took out the ores from the body of the mineral-devouring bug and handed them to Camilla. He did get a lot of life stones, but the number was nowhere near his goal. Letitia's life energy was on the verge of drying up and these life stones could probably wake her up, though they couldn't restore her life energy to her original state. Allowing Letitia into this kind of a situation had always been a great shame for Zen and he'd been deeply remorseful. The only way he could make it up to her was by obtaining as many life stones as possible. There was no soul core in the body of this mineral-devouring bug. Most of the divine-level talents were disappointed. They knew that even if Zen dug out a soul core from this bug, they probably wouldn't be able to get their hands on it. But they couldn't help but hope for a soul core when they saw Zen catch the bug. Once he had dealt with the body of the mineral-devouring bug, Zen turned to Randy, curiosity written on his face. "Why is this so-called soul core so important?" he asked. This was not a secret. Even the divine-level talents that entered the Feather Holy Sea for the first time seemed to be very clear about it. Randy simply told Zen, "Remember the Heavenly Stellar Secret Land that I mentioned to you?" Zen nodded. Many of the Soul Sea Realm Masters weren't interested in the Feather Emperor Secret Land, the Mysterious Dream Secret Land, or the Divine Emperor Secret Land. They were only interested in the Heavenly Stellar Secret Land, which was way more important than the other three secret lands. And that was where the secret of the dragon lineage human and the ancestral dragon's egg were located. Could it be that the soul core is somehow connected to entering the Heavenly Stellar Secret Land? Zen continued to ask. That's right. Only by obtaining a soul core can we become qualified enough to go to the Grand Graveyard in the Divine Emperor Secret Land and control the corpses of the dragon lineage humans, Randy said with a smile. Zen's eyes flashed at Randy's words. He simultaneously felt a slight tremble in his mind and recognized it to be the vibration of the Cyan Dragon's soul. Zen had promised the cyan dragon that he would get the ancestral dragon's egg, but that was only if he had the chance. Even a powerful warrior at the Soul Sea realm found it difficult to enter the heavenly stellar secret land. With Zen's current strength, he might not be able to do anything. It was a good thing that the Feather Holy Sea opened every year. If Zen didn't get through this year, he would only need to accumulate enough life stones. He would first go back to the central region and replenish Letitia's life energy, and then when the time was right, he could come back to this continent. It had been so many years, but the 4 divine kingdoms hadn't taken away the ancestral dragon's egg from the heavenly stellar secret land. It would probably be impossible for them to do so in such a short period of time. Before the cyan dragon could say anything, Zen told him in his mind, if I can obtain a soul core from this mine, I will make sure to make a trip to the heavenly stellar secret land. The cyan dragon's face lit up at Zen's promise. Although he was in Zen's mind, he could not ask too much of Zen. With his current strength, he was barely able to fight against the warriors at the Soul Sea realm. Dealing with the emperors alone would be a difficult test for Zen, not to mention how dangerous the heavenly stellar secret land actually was. What was worse was that Zen had already pitted himself against the York Divine Kingdom and made sure that they would hold a grudge against him. So the cyan dragon and the red dragon didn't say anything, closing their huge eyes in peace. They had previously helped Zen withstand a soul attack from the little monster, which wasn't a small loss for them. Their souls needed to rest for a while. Zen didn't probe any further as to why he needed a soul core to control the corpses within the Divine Emperor's secret land. The course of action was that Zen would obtain the soul core. So no matter how many other answers he knew, it would not change anything. Right now, he still had to hurry and excavate the life stones. Camilla had accumulated all of Zen's ores and started a new round of trading with many warriors. This time, the ores attracted all of the warriors who were mining, and there must be many of those who had managed to dig up the life stones. Camilla was sharp and would naturally seize this opportunity. Zen nodded at Randy and continued on his way to enter the 30th layer of the pyramid. Zen had originally thought that the higher the level, the higher the probability of discovering the life stones. But after ages of searching, he was left disappointed. It was harder for him to dig ores in the leaves of the 30th layer. Yet the number of life stones in the 30th layer was less than that in the previous layers. No wonder Randy had suggested that Zen dig ores between the 25th layer and 29th layer. The number of life stones in these 5 layers might probably be the most. The problem was that Zen had already gone to every door, right from the 25th layer to the 29th layer. He had probably dug out most of the life stones in these 5 layers himself. Some of them might have fallen into the hands of other warriors, but those numbers would probably be tiny. Zen estimated that the other warriors only had a few more than 100 life stones with them. And adding Zen's life stones to the count would mean that he would end up with only around 300 to 400 of them. But his goal was to obtain 1,000 life stones. This mining tree absorbs all sorts of ores from unknown places every year. The warriors of the 4 divine kingdoms dig them out every year and new leaves sprout only the following year, which means that Zen's thought halted abruptly as he realized what the trouble was going to be. There would probably be only about 500 to 600 life stones from this year's production. Zen's heart sank. Perhaps the life stones he had gathered were enough to sustain Letitia's life energy, but he knew it was still too far from his goal. He let out a long breath. Even so, all he could do was dig for ores and collect as many life stones as he could. Crack, crack, Zen continued to excavate, and in the process, the quantity of the other ores increased, but the number of life stones didn't increase significantly. From the 30th layer up, the life stones were becoming increasingly rare. He continued to dig upwards layer by layer, and as the leaves became sturdier, Zen continued to borrow more power of the dragon scales. 6 hours later, when Zen went out again, the multicolored ores around Camilla had already piled up into a human-sized mountain. These ores flickered with a variety of colors, a result of Zen's random picking. If he had not done that, the number of ores could have been higher. There were, of course, a lot of precious ores among them. However, there were also some that were not very valuable. Zen didn't know how to identify ores, so he was very casual as he mined them. This mountain of ores had attracted almost half of the divine level talents to watch what was going on. This Thad Luo looks like a puppet that doesn't know exhaustion. His efficiency is terrifying. Tisk, tisk, even a mighty warrior at the Soul Sea realm wouldn't have been as good as him, right? I have nothing to say anyway. Let's forget about what's happening this year. Next year, I will definitely advise my father not to let him in. If this goes on, he'll be able to dig out all the ores in the mine by himself. Alas, I want that saint forging stone, but the price offered by that woman is too high. She wants 50 life stones in exchange for it. I really can't take out 50 life stones. Not even one. Many of the divine level talents were also envious, but they didn't dare rob Zen openly. Zen wasn't afraid of anyone, and he had even dared to look down upon Frederick, the crown prince of the York Divine Kingdom. If they as much as tried to rob him, it would be difficult for them to escape. Zen's mining efficiency was not inferior to that of the mighty warriors at the Soul Sea realm. After borrowing the power of the dragon scales, his pure strength was comparable to that of some powerful warriors at the Soul Sea realm, and he might even prove to be stronger than them. Moreover, the powerful warriors at the Soul Sea realm would need to use up the reserves of their physical strength to mine like this, while Zen directly borrowed the endless power of the dragon scales. Although the power of the dragon scales would also be consumed eventually, with Zen's current strength, the rate at which he used the power of the dragon scales was much slower than his recovery. This meant that he had an unending source of power. Given all this, who could compete with him when it came to mining efficiency? Moreover, the mining efficiency wasn't the problem. The number of life stones was the problem here. Camilla, how many life stones have you got? Zen walked over and threw a brightly colored ore on top of the small mountain. There were at least 1,000 ores piled up there. Chapter 832, Black Star. Not many life stones, though I did manage to collect quite a lot Supreme Life Vitality crystals. I already have over 30,000 of them now, Camilla replied, pouting her lips. She knew that Zen was not interested in Supreme Life Vitality crystals at all. All he wanted was life stones, and life stones only. But every single life stone that any other warrior had dug out had already been taken over. She had bought them at a very high price, and now no one had any life stones left. She had been using some rare ores to lure these warriors. Some of them had even tried borrowing life stones from others, but to no avail. All the life stones were here now, in Camilla's hands. Who were they going to borrow from? I see, Zen replied as he walked towards the pyramid once again. He had completed his exploration of the 34th layer of the pyramid now, and his target was the next one. There was even a chance that with increasing height, the chances of finding life stones decreased, but he still had to try. As he arrived at the 35th layer of the pyramid, he saw a special door. Every single door that he had seen on the pyramid was supported by 2 gray pillars, forming a narrow passageway that was only as wide as an average person. This essentially meant that only one person could enter at a time. However, there was a different door in the 35th layer. The pillars of this door were carved out of 2 genuine dragons. These 2 genuine dragons were staring at Zen with their mouths wide open, looking very lifelike and slightly scary. Why is this door different? Zen thought as a hint of curiosity appeared on his face. Perhaps this was special. Most warriors had chosen to mine for ores below the 30th layer, and none of the divine level talents was willing to enter the 35th layer or above. The reason was very simple, it was going to be a complete waste of time anyhow. They couldn't dig out the ores from the leaves of the 35 layer at all, and if they were to encounter mineral-devouring bugs, then their lives would be in danger as well. Even a simple green mineral-devouring bug would prove quite difficult for them to handle. Without much thought, Zen decided to investigate. After he stepped through the door, he fell down just like he had for the past 34 layers. Soon, he found himself on top of a giant leaf. However, this leaf was completely different from the others. The other leaves had been as beautiful and clear as glass. They had been glowing with an enchanting blue light. The higher the layer, the darker the blue. However, the giant leaf underneath Zen's feet right now was glowing with a golden light. This leaf seems to be very special. A curious expression appeared on Zen's face as he began to size it up carefully. During his appraisal of the leaf, Zen's gaze suddenly froze. That is, a pickaxe. What rank is it? It looks special to me. Zen cried out involuntarily. A short pickaxe was embedded in the middle of this pale golden leaf and it looked very beautiful indeed. The whole body of the pickaxe was jet black, but the aura it exuded had given Zen quite a bit of a shock. More importantly, there was a faint flow of strange divine textures on the pickaxe, and these divine textures seemed very powerful. 10-star divine textures. There are 3 10-star divine textures on this pickaxe, Zen cried out again. He couldn't recognize the divine textures of the 4 divine kingdoms and the ones that belong to the human race in the upper world. But the divine textures of the dragon lineage human were inherited from the genuine dragon and Zen had practiced drawing them through the cyan dragon. So he had at least a basic idea of them. In any case, even in the upper world, a 10-star divine texture was considered the pinnacle of divine textures. Even if the Cyan Dragon was at his peak, it would still take him an enormous amount of effort and time to draw a 10-star divine texture. And time wasn't the only factor to be considered. The materials needed to draw a 10-star divine texture were even harder to find than to draw the texture itself. Back then, Zen had relied on 3 5-star divine textures to block the assault of a life and death realm warrior. The disparity between 2 successive levels of divine textures was as great as the difference between heaven and earth. A 6-star divine texture was thousands of times stronger than a 5-star divine texture. A 7-star divine texture was thousands of times more than that. Judging by that, one could, maybe, imagine the power of an 8-star divine texture. This pickaxe, however, had 3 10-star divine textures. What grade of treasure was this pickaxe? Zen wasn't able to figure it out, but he knew in his heart that since there were 3 10-star divine textures engraved on the pickaxe, its grade would definitely not be low. In fact, he wouldn't be surprised if this pickaxe was the pinnacle of all weapons. Should I dig it out? This thought jumped out uncontrollably into Zen's mind. However, in retrospect, the door to this leaf wasn't exactly hidden, which meant that many warriors must have seen the pickaxe before. Most of them were Life and Death Realm warriors and Soul Sea Realm warriors, and even Soul Sea Realm warriors couldn't take out this pickaxe. How was he going to get this pickaxe out? Although this thought came in his mind, Zen still took out his pickaxe, which was a sacred weapon, and walked towards the light golden leaf. After he stood still, he used the pickaxe in his hand and lightly tapped the leaf twice. The light golden leaf responded with 2 muffled sounds. After aiming in a certain direction, Zen raised the pickaxe in his hand high and slapped it down hard on the leaf, hoping for the best. Pock, boom, clang. The first sound was the sound of Zen's pickaxe hitting the surface of the leaf. The second sound was the sound of the pickaxe breaking into 2 clear pieces as if it had been made of eggshell. The third sound was that of the broken pickaxe rolling down to the edge on his left and falling down. When he saw this scene, Zen was stunned for a moment before a wry smile appeared on his face. Although the pickaxe that Randy had given Zen was a low-grade sacred weapon, it had been damaged to such a degree that it was almost broken before he hit the leaf with it. The hardness of the light gold leaf under Zen's feet was simply unimaginable. According to Zen's judgment, this light golden leaf was probably as strong as a divine weapon itself. In other words, if one wanted to make a divine weapon, he could simply use this leaf as a raw material, in its true form. When the low-grade sacred weapon had struck the leaf, it had been the same as hitting a stone with an egg, instantly breaking it apart. The pickaxe was broken, but not a single trace of the assault had appeared on the leaf. As he looked at the pitch-black pickaxe quietly lying under the leaf, he pursed his lips into a thin line. He wasn't going to admit defeat yet. The space ring on his finger flashed and he took out a top-grade sacred weapon. The sword that had appeared in his hand was famed for its sharpness, but it was not suitable for mining. In terms of overall strength, it was far from a pickaxe. Zen drew his sword for a while and stood still but still couldn't bring himself to stab the leaf. He was afraid that his sword would be broken as well if he used it to hit the leaf. After a moment of thought, Zen sighed and jumped down from the light golden leaf. When Zen appeared on the side of the pyramid, carrying a broken pickaxe, Randy asked curiously, "Thad, how did you manage to break the pickaxe?" Zen gently waved the broken pickaxe in his hand and smiled helplessly. This pickaxe had been lent to him by Randy after all, but now he had broken it. That is impossible. Even if you were mining in the 35th layer, it is impossible for a low-grade sacred weapon to break so quickly and so cleanly. Randy remarked with a puzzled expression. This pickaxe was a low-grade sacred weapon, and as far as he knew, it was completely suitable for mining. The head of the pickaxe was thick and wide. Normally, it would be extremely difficult to break it. It was not that Randy was blaming Zen for breaking the pickaxe. Obtaining a low-grade sacred weapon was extremely hard, but Randy valued Zen more than some pickaxe. Zen replied honestly, "I found something strange in the 35th layer." What? When he heard Zen's words, a look of realization suddenly appeared on Randy's face. You mean the pickaxe in the gold leaf, right? You didn't try to dig that out, did you? That light golden leaf was not hard to find and Randy obviously knew about it. Zen then nodded his head. He was a bit embarrassed for having broken his companion's pickaxe. Ha ha, that explains it. Dude, my fault. I should have told you earlier. Randy then explained, that golden leaf is impossible to break. The pickaxe that is wrapped in that golden leaf is called Black Star. It is recorded in the records of the dragon lineage human. You know, it is a supreme divine weapon. A supreme divine weapon? Zen was stunned. At first, he thought that divine weapons were similar to sacred weapons and were divided into top grade, mid grade, and low grade. It seemed that this was not the case. The truth was that Zen had never come into contact with a divine weapon before. Since right now both the cyan dragon and the red dragon were sleeping, and Lavender was immersed in the soul-nurturing wood, he had nobody he could ask about it. Randy smiled and replied, I am not sure exactly how powerful a supreme divine weapon is. Anyway, this is how the documents recorded about the pickaxe. The most important usage of this pickaxe is not to defend against the enemy, but to mine. It is used to break the leaves on the top of the mine. Chapter 833, Purple Mineral Devouring Bugs. From the 45th floor upwards, the hardness of all the leaves had reached an unimaginable level. Even a powerful master of the Soul Sea realm couldn't do anything about them. Perhaps even a warrior who was stronger than a powerful master of the Soul Sea realm wouldn't be able to break them either. After seizing the Feather Holy Sea, the 4 divine kingdoms had obtained a great deal of legacies from the 4 secret lands. Among them were a few ancient books that explained how the leaves from the top floor could only be broken by the Black Star pickaxe that was kept in the Golden Leaf. The big challenge was retrieving the Black Star pickaxe from the Golden Leaf, and so far no one had been able to do so. This meant that it was impossible for them to obtain this supreme divine weapon and, therefore, it was less likely that they would be able to break the leaves on the top of the tree. It was all the more impossible to obtain the soul cores located inside. It was only when someone discovered the bugs that lived on the tree that they felt hope again. These bugs had no names, but once the people of the divine kingdoms discovered that they ate ores to survive, they began calling them mineral-devouring bugs. The leaves that daunted even the most powerful masters of the Soul Sea realm were an easy task for the mineral-devouring bugs. So, the warriors of the divine kingdoms stopped worrying about how to obtain the Black Star pickaxe and focused on studying the mineral-devouring bugs. Their hard work paid off and, in the end, they got the soul cores, which enabled them to enter the Heavenly Stellar's secret land. The rumor that the Black Star pickaxe was impossible to get spread widely, so everyone in the 4 divine kingdoms gave up on looking for ways to get it. Zen, on the other hand, had no idea about it. He had never heard of such a thing as the Black Star pickaxe, so he did not understand how challenging it was to obtain, and he thought he might be able to get it out from the leaf. Well, now I know why I failed to take it out from the leaf. Zen exhaled gently, feeling a little regretful for trying so hard in achieving something nearly impossible. He then decided to forget about it and move on. He got up and went back through the narrow door of the pyramid to search for the life stones. Zen's pickaxe was broken, but his fists were as strong as a sacred weapon. He just had to use a little more strength and put in a little more effort to break the leaves. For 2 hours he tried hard but had no results. In order to find the life stones, Zen gave up on mining other ores. The value of ores on and above the 35th floor was high, but he did not have the patience or time or energy to waste on gathering more. He kept going in and out of the pyramid in order to look for the life stones in the tree. From the 35th floor all the way to the 40th floor, the number of leaves on each floor decreased. Zen went back and forth over 1,000 times, carefully inspecting every leaf, but he still couldn't find a single life stone. During the search for life stones, Zen had encountered a few green mineral-devouring bugs, and they seemed to have become smarter. As soon as Zen fell on the leaves, these bugs flapped their wings and carefully flew away to avoid him. Zen didn't have a chance to catch any of these bugs. He realized that it was going to be an arduous task, so his heart slowly sank as he furrowed his brows. It was getting harder and harder with every passing minute. If this continued, it might be a problem for him to collect even 500 life stones. Thinking of this, Zen decided to go straight up to the 40th floor of the pyramid. Zen, as Randy saw that Zen was about to enter the 40th floor, he tried to stop him and give him counsel. The 40th floor and above are only for the powerful masters of the Soul Sea realm. If you go in, I'm afraid you may not be able to return. The purple mineral-devouring bugs on the 40th floor and above were 10 times more powerful than the green mineral-devouring bugs Zen had encountered so far. Even the top masters of the life and death realm would find it difficult to deal with them, not to mention Zen. And even if he entered the 40th floor, it would be impossible for him to break the leaves on this floor. That brat is going after his own death. Just let him go. The ores in the 40th floor are priceless. If someone can get one of them, that person would make a giant killing. He was able to injure War Emperor York, maybe he can dig out something from the 40th floor. Some of the divine level talents kept on talking to each other and whispering about how Zen was a show-off. Meanwhile, Zen was quickly climbing up the pyramid without paying any attention to them. After all, the 40th floor and above were like forbidden zones to these divine level talents of the virtual tribulation realm, but Zen was daring to cross that line. Without caring about other people's opinions, he kept on fighting for what he wanted. I will quickly go in and take a look. It won't be long. Don't worry, I will be careful. Zen shouted to Randy. On the 40th floor and above there were purple mineral devouring bugs, which were equivalent to 11th level fierce beasts and could be compared to powerful masters at the Soul Sea realm. As long as these purple mineral devouring bugs didn't use their domains to cut off the connection between him and the great world, they still wouldn't be able to kill Zen. Zen could also use the power diversion technique to divert the attacks from the purple mineral devouring bugs to other locations. Since the life stones were so scarce in the first 30 floors, Zen assumed that the chances of finding the life stones on the 40th layer were much lower. But he had no other choice but to go in and look for them. After stepping through the narrow door, Zen instantly fell on a leaf on the 40th floor. Standing on it he looked over his surroundings. There weren't any of the legendary mineral devouring bugs on the leaf he was standing, but he found 6 of them on a leaf next to him. A purple mineral devouring bug was twice bigger than a green mineral devouring bug, and it had 1 more pair of compound eyes on its head than a green one had. The purple mineral devouring bugs emitted a cold and gloomy aura from their heads. The 6 purple mineral devouring bugs kept their heads down on the leaf. It looked like they had just dug open the leaf and were swallowing the ores inside. Their huge purplish black bellies were raising high on the other end. The noise of Zen landing on the leaf caught the attention of one of the purple mineral devouring bugs. As it heard the noise it lowered its abdomen. Its body worked like a lever as it lifted its head high up. The tentacles on the top of its head shook slightly. All of a sudden it turned its head to look at Zen with its 4 black compound eyes. Zen was confident that he could escape a mineral devouring bug, but he wouldn't challenge it or pick up a fight for no reason. With his strength, Zen might not be able to cut open the outer shell of the purple mineral devouring bug. When Zen realized that the purple mineral devouring bug had noticed him, he looked quickly to the leaf under his feet, trying to figure out what was inside. Each of the ores inside was as big as a head, and some were even faintly emitting various law powers. Zen did not know the exact type of ores he had found, but he could tell that these ores were priceless. There are no life stones in here. It's pointless, Zen thought. He expected this outcome, but he couldn't help but feel disappointed. He hadn't found any life stones on the 35th floor and some floors above. It was becoming less likely he would find one on the 40th floor. Zen didn't want to give up. He promised himself he would keep looking until he found all the life stones he needed. Squeak! The purple mineral devouring bug on the nearby leaf suddenly let out a sharp chirp and started waving its slender and sharp forelegs and pointing them towards Zen. The other 5 purple mineral devouring bugs that had been eating the ores without noticing Zen's presence, suddenly stopped and stared at him. All of them flew up and quickly charged towards Zen in an attempt to surround him. The strength of these purple mineral devouring bugs ranked them as 11th level fierce beasts, which meant that these 6 purple mineral devouring bugs were equivalent to 6 mighty warriors of the Soul Sea realm. Zen didn't feel the power of any domain from these bugs, but he was still taken by surprise by their abrupt attack. Without a second thought, he turned around quickly and leapt out of the leaf. Squeak, 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 the chirping continued. The moment Zen leapt out, the leading purple mineral devouring bug, which was just 3 feet away from Zen, used its slender feet under its abdomen and tried to capture Zen. If Zen was seized by it, all the other 5 purple mineral devouring bugs would immediately surround him and attack him together. Then Zen would be in great trouble. He had to handle the situation quickly. You want to capture me? You are dreaming. Zen twisted his waist in midair and a cold light flashed in his hand. He drew his long sword and slashed the purple mineral devouring bugs with it. Clank! To his surprise, the invincible top-grade sacred weapon didn't work. The purple mineral devouring bug didn't suffer a single scratch, not even a slight bruise from his sword. The purple mineral devouring bug's legs were not very thick, only about the size of a human arm. When Zen charged its top-grade sacred weapon into them, it only produced a crisp sound and a few sparks. How come the armor of these bugs is so hard? Zen was shocked. Suddenly he felt like he was pushed down by the reverse force of his strikes. He was falling extremely fast, being pushed down by the reverse thrust of his strikes and the force of gravity. The purple mineral devouring bugs kept on chasing him as he was falling. In fact, they were in a hot pursuit and actually dove down towards Zen. Whoosh! As he saw the bugs coming after him, he hurriedly sped up to run for his life. He frantically revolved his life vitality and, at the same time, he released the forceful energy in his body. These, combined with the forces dragging him down, made him fall at an incredible speed. Chapter 834, Scavenging Through Garbage. These level 11 beasts really were so much more powerful than Zen had imagined. He was fortunate enough because with his high speed, he was able to get rid of the purple mineral devouring bugs. Jumping away, he fell straight into the ring of light at the bottom of the tree. The moment his feet touched the ring, he was worried that the bugs would chase after him and exit the pyramid in their pursuit. If they really managed to come out of the pyramid, how were the virtual tribulation realm warriors going to fight against them? Thankfully, the bugs were unable to catch up to Zen, and when they discovered that there were a few other humans digging on the tree, they surged towards them like a tornado. Callan was completely immersed in mining in the 27th layer when he suddenly heard loud noises. He raised his head and his expression immediately changed. What are those things? He blankly stared at those large purple-colored bugs which were rushing down rapidly. Ah, help, help me. Not too far away from Callan, a divine-level talent was caught by a purple mineral-devouring bug and was immediately tossed into the air. When warriors left the leaves, they were pulled downwards by a massive gravitational pull even stronger than the Earth's. However, a single purple mineral-devouring bug was able to completely cancel out that gravitational pull and throw a warrior into the air. One could imagine just how powerful the creature was. Help me. Other than instinctively calling for help, the warrior wasn't left with much to do. The bug was simply too powerful. After the warrior was thrown into the air, the other bugs immediately surrounded him. They stretched out their slender feet and began to tear him apart. Mineral-devouring bugs only ate ores to survive and weren't concerned about human flesh. This meant that by tearing their prey apart, they were simply torturing him in a cruel streak of fun. How could the body of a virtual tribulation realm warrior withstand the tearing attacks of several level 11 beasts? The warrior's screams and cries for help came to an abrupt stop after only a few seconds. Immediately after being grabbed, he was torn into pieces, and the bloody confetti from his corpse fell towards the bottom of the tree. When the other warriors, including Callan, saw this, their faces turned pale instantly. After witnessing such a dangerous event, even a fool would know that he had to run for his life. Everyone jumped off and dashed towards the bottom of the tree. Outside the pyramid, the vast majority of warriors weren't even aware that such a fatal change had occurred. Most of them were still busy trading their ores or bargaining with Camilla. The number of Supreme Life Vitality crystals that she had gathered had already reached around 70,000. Such a number of Supreme Life Vitality crystals was enormous, even for a crown prince of a divine kingdom, who would consider this a large amount of money. In each of the 4 divine kingdoms, national treasuries, normally about 200,000 to 300,000 Supreme Life Vitality crystals were stored. But in just about 9 hours, Camilla had already earned around 70,000 Supreme Life Vitality crystals. However, her face did not seem to register that fortune. If it had been the days of the past, then after earning so many Supreme Life Vitality crystals, Camilla would have been overjoyed. Even if she was only able to draw out a commission, it would still be a massive sum of money for her. However, she was depressed that she couldn't help Zen get enough life stones. From the looks of it, the amount of life stones that she had gathered was far lower than his expectations. However, the mine could only produce so many life stones a year. There was nothing that Zen, or indeed Camilla herself, could do about it. Just as she was discussing the price of a piece of black frost with a divine-level talent, a loud sound suddenly rang out. Boom! Even before the effects of the blue-colored ring on the side of the pyramid had completely dissipated, a huge crater appeared below it. When the dust settled, they saw that Zen was lying in it. What's wrong with you, Thad? What happened? Camilla blinked her eyes as she stared at the young man who seemed to be completely unharmed despite the huge crater he had just made. Just now, Zen had used his fastest speed to get rid of the purple mineral-devouring bugs. However, he was unable to stop his body in midair after charging out at such a speed. Therefore, on falling, he had created a large crater on the ground. Of course, with Zen's sacred weapons physique, he wasn't injured at all. He only felt his blood churn from this impact. Everyone watched in surprised curiosity as Zen climbed out of the huge crater. Soon after, countless rings of light began to flash above Zen's head. The next moment, bloody chunks of flesh fell from the densely packed rings of light like rain. When Zen turned his head and saw this scene, a look of helplessness appeared on his face. After this bloody scene, the densely packed rings of light continued to flicker without end, and pale-faced divine-level talents began to emerge from the rings of light. They all seemed to be in a hurry and some even looked scared and angry. Only a small number of those divine-level talents managed to stand up. Most of them directly threw their bodies at the crater. They didn't have a body as tough as Zen's and each and every one of them had fallen heavily. What happened? The pyramid isn't supposed to be that dangerous. Why is every single one of them running for their lives? Did they encounter mineral-devouring bugs? Did the purple mineral-devouring bugs come down? The divine-level talents who had been trading ores outside began a flurry of discussion. Some of them had already guessed the truth. Thad Luo, a prince of the Starfield Divine Kingdom, crawled out from the crater. His face was pale and there was even a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. However, he looked furious as he angrily roared at Zen, "You were the one who lured those purple mineral-devouring bugs down to the lower layers." Hearing the prince speak, the divine-level talents outside the pyramid immediately understood what was going on. It was difficult even for the divine-level talents to deal with green mineral-devouring bugs. Only the most powerful warriors like Zen, Frederick, and the others who were ranked in the first tier of the Divine Kingdom continent dared to provoke them. However, Zen was the only one who could kill a green mineral-devouring bug. Even Frederick and the others weren't strong enough. Purple mineral-devouring bugs were several times more powerful than green ones. Even Life and Death Realm warriors themselves didn't dare to try and fight them, let alone virtual Tribulation Realm warriors. The habits of these mineral-devouring bugs were very regular. The green mineral-devouring bugs usually did not go below the 30th layer, and the purple ones usually did not venture below the 40th layer. However, just now, everyone had personally witnessed Zen entered the 40th layer. That was why they believed that it was Zen who had offended those purple mineral-devouring bugs, and in their pursuit, they had come down. Even Zen himself hadn't intended for that to happen. Zen's expression didn't change at the accusation of the prince. He replied calmly, "I didn't do it on purpose." "Well, whatever. You've caused the death of a warrior. You think that you can just end it by saying that you didn't do it on purpose?" The prince was still unwilling to accept this. Zen shrugged his shoulders. He could not have predicted such a situation. Even so, he did not intend to change his decision. He would explore the entire mine until he was able to find enough life stones. The prince became even angrier when he saw that Zen wasn't paying any attention to him. But since he couldn't do anything about it, he could only order, "Guys, stop mining." Heaven knows if those purple mineral-devouring bugs have flown to the upper layers or if they are still waiting for us down below. It was impossible for these divine-level talents to escape the purple mineral-devouring bugs. The chances were that in a blind chase, they could even take a wrong turn and find themselves at a dead end, after which, they were finished. Alas, there's no other way. Let's go scavenge through garbage. Maybe we'll be able to find something useful in there. Not that I have much hope. I'm not mining either. I'm going to scavenge through garbage too. Yeah, let's go. It's better than throwing our lives away here. A lot of warriors were filled with righteous indignation when they heard this. They walked around the pyramid in groups of 3 or 5 and headed in another direction. Only then did Randy walk over with a wry smile. "Thad, did you really lure the purple mineral-devouring bugs down just now?" he asked. Zen nodded. There was nothing he could do except admit to what he had done. How many? Randy didn't care about the life or death of the other warriors. Moreover, the warrior who had just died wasn't from the Harlan Divine Kingdom, which meant that he cared even less. The death of that divine-level talent could only be considered as his own bad luck. "I think there were 5, Zen replied. Randy was rendered speechless. Zen had been able to lure 5 purple mineral-devouring bugs at once. The most surprising thing was that this fellow was able to escape unharmed. For a while, Randy didn't know what to say. "I advise you not to enter the pyramid again, Thad. The 40th layer is too dangerous. If you get surrounded by 5 or 6 purple mineral-devouring bugs, then I'm afraid you won't be able to escape either," Randy advised. Zen shook his head slightly without any hint of hesitation on his face. No matter how dangerous it was inside the pyramid, he simply had to go in. Randy also knew that Zen was stubborn. He couldn't persuade him, so he said nothing more. Why were they talking about scavenging through garbage? What were they talking about? Zen asked Randy before he ventured inside again. Scavenging through garbage, Randy smiled. They are going to scavenge through the trash of this place to find some weapons which were not cursed. Perhaps they'll do so in the abandoned arsenal. This place is known as the Feather Emperor's secret land. It was originally a mine belonging to the dragon lineage human. There were numerous weapon refiners of the dragon lineage human who once came to this island to refine weapons. Among them, the most famous one is the Feather Emperor. Chapter 835, Life Crystal. The Feather Emperor's secret land was actually named after a famous weapon refiner on this island. The entire Feather Emperor Island had been a place of mining and weapon refining in the past. This could be considered an arsenal of the dragon lineage human. Back when the dragon lineage human had been defeated, the members of the dragon lineage human living on the Feather Emperor Island had been unable to destroy such a great number of weapons. But they didn't want them to fall into the hands of the humans, so they cast irreversible curses on the weapons. These curses could not be removed, and the weapons that had been cursed could not be used. So for these divine-level talents, they had become trash. But there were way too many of these weapons, ranging from low-grade mysterious weapons and spiritual weapons to fairy weapons and sacred weapons. And there were probably several million of them. But there were a few that had escaped the curses and stayed unaffected by them. If anyone could find sacred weapons that had been spared by the curses, it would definitely be a huge advantage and work for them at a profit. But it was highly improbable that one could find weapons that didn't have curses on them, which was why the divine-level talents referred to the process of searching for them as scavenging through garbage. A section of the divine-level talents had given up mining and had instead gone to the arsenal to scavenge for weapons. However, a majority of the martial artists still thought that it would be more worthwhile to mine earnestly in the pyramid. But now that Zen had brought the purple mineral devouring bugs down to the lower floors, they didn't want to go into the pyramid. Mining might bring them some benefits, but no one was willing to lose their lives. I see, Zen said, nodding. He had no interest in picking up trash, so he decided to enter the pyramid. Callan and Fiona also decided not to pick up trash for the moment. Even Frederick, Bram, and the other crown princes of the divine kingdoms hadn't gone either. Given their status, even top-grade sacred weapons wouldn't pique their interest, aside from semi-divine and divine weapons. They chose to stay out of the pyramid to keep themselves from danger. The warriors who stayed all looked at Zen. Zen didn't care what others thought of him. But he had attracted the purple mineral devouring bugs down to the lower floors, which had scared Callan and Fiona out of the pyramid. Zen then said to them, "If those purple mineral devouring bugs return to the upper floors, I'll come out and inform you." Fiona wasn't very interested in mining and she had only entered the pyramid 3 times. Most of the time, she just sat in a corner and watched Zen go in and out of the pyramid. Fiona wanted to advise Zen against entering the pyramid, but after some thought, she decided not to say anything. Like Randy, she also knew that she couldn't dissuade Zen from entering the pyramid. But Frederick, Bram, and several others became slightly happy at Zen's words. After all, there was still some time before the powerful masters of the Soul Sea realm would personally come. Since they were unwilling to pick up trash, they naturally did not want to waste their valuable time doing nothing. Zen climbed up the pyramid once he was done speaking. This time, he didn't choose to enter the 40th floor. Instead, he climbed up to the 41st floor and entered a narrow door. Once he had entered, Zen did not encounter any purple mineral devouring bugs. The mineral tree had 100,000 leaves growing out of it. Zen assumed that he was at the top of the tree as he stood on the 41st floor. There were a total of 200 leaves on the 41st floor, 150 leaves on the 42nd floor. However, there were only 100 on the 43rd floor and 60 leaves on the 44th floor, 10 leaves on the 45th floor, 6 on the 46th floor, and 3 on the 47th floor. Zen still didn't encounter any life stones on the 41st floor and he didn't have any hope of finding any on this floor. After scanning the area, he walked to the edge of the leaf and searched for traces of the purple mineral devouring bugs. There's one on the left. There's one on a leaf of the 43rd floor. There are 5 over there, Zen counted in his heart. Zen's eyes flashed as he saw that the 5 purple mineral devouring bugs had returned to the 40th floor, which meant that they had returned to the place they had previously been in. He let out a sigh of relief, jumped down, and entered the light circle at the bottom. He then told the warriors outside that the purple mineral devouring bugs had returned to the 40th floor. After that, he climbed up to the 42nd floor. It didn't matter that his chances of finding any life stones were slim. Zen still scanned the area carefully and found what he already knew. There were no life stones on the leaves on the 42nd floor. He jumped down and entered the 43rd floor. He continued jumping and entering different floors. The 44th floor. The 45th floor. Callan had already entered the pyramid to start mining again. His talent might not be considered outstanding when compared to the other crown princes of the divine kingdoms, but he was definitely the most diligent one. Fiona sat in a corner of the pyramid and watched as Zen entered and exited it. Who was he collecting the life stones for? Fiona thought. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly as her eyes flickered. She watched as Zen entered the 45th floor. 45th floor, Fiona blinked. Even though she didn't know anything about the Feather Emperor's secret land before, she now knew that there was no need to enter the top 3 floors, from the 45th to the 47th floors. The leaves on these last 3 floors were unbreakable. For so many years, so many powerful masters of the divine kingdoms had used all sorts of methods to try and break them. None of them were able to dig out anything from the leaves of the 45th floor and above because there was no way for them to break the leaves. There were no life stones on the last 3 floors, and even if there were any, one could only anxiously stand aside and look longingly and helplessly at them. Zen was well aware of this fact, but he still chose to enter the 45th floor, a place that was said to be impossible to excavate. The moment he entered the 45th floor, Zen smelled a faint fragrance. It's so strange. I didn't smell this fragrance on the 44th floor. Where does this fragrance come from? Zen wondered as a trace of doubt appeared across his face. He looked up to find 6 giant leaves above his head. And in the crack, Zen saw 3 more leaves. The 6 giant leaves were at the 46th floor and the 3 leaves were at the 47th floor, which was the top of the pyramid. He saw that there was a flower among the 3 leaves. The fragrance is coming from that flower. But this flower looks so different. Zen's gaze flickered, surprise etched on his face. The flower was nothing like any normal flower he had ever seen. It looked more like a mineral. Its petals, pistils, and the root all seemed to be made up of various ores. So at first glance the flower seemed to have edges and corners. And because of this flower had the beauty of symmetry. After looking at it for a long while, Zen moved his gaze away from it. Even though he was unwilling to walk away from its beauty, he could only sigh at the magic of the creator. He still had something important to do. However, Zen's eyes glistened with excitement as he looked down. These are life stones, he exclaimed. Beneath Zen's feet were 14 round stones, each the size of an egg. At the first glance, they looked very similar to the life stones. They were of the same size and the same color as the life stones. Zen had excavated a lot of life stones before. They appeared in the shape of a circle every time and they always appeared in even numbers, like 10, 12, or 14 of them in a circle. A life stone should be a kind of fascicle material and would appear in a cluster every time. The ores before Zen's eyes were also in the form of a circle. But the surface of these ores was translucent. Zen looked through the leaf and through the translucent outer shells of the ores. To his surprise, he found crystals floating inside them. These also have life energy. And it's so rich and strong. The more closely Zen looked at them, the more he felt the power of the life energy. It didn't matter that Zen was observing them through the thick leaf. He could still feel the full force of the life energy. Once a life stone was crushed, only a small amount of life energy could be released. They usually contained tiny amounts of life energy. However, the stones before him right now were different. Just a single one of them probably contained 1,000 times more life energy than a life stone would normally have. That was to say, probably one such stone would be enough to completely restore Letitia. Seeing these small stones made Zen appreciate the marvelous things that Creator had made. And at the same time, he became very excited. I only want one of them. I'll be happy even if I can take just one of them out. Zen thought. His gaze was firmly locked on the stones on the ground beneath his feet. The problem was that the 10 leaves on the 45th floor, the 6 leaves on the 46th floor, and the 3 leaves on the 47th floor had never been broken by anyone. Not even the most powerful masters at the Soul Sea realm in the 4 divine kingdoms had been able to move them. The 4 divine kingdoms had probably tried to seek help from the human race in the upper world through the reverse spirit channel. But they still hadn't been able to deal with them. The brutal truth was that even though Zen only wanted to take one of them, it would still be as difficult as reaching the heavens. Chapter 836, To Increase Strength Quickly. As he stared at the round stones hidden under the leaf beneath his feet, Zen's mind was in turmoil. He wondered at how he could take out the stones. Just give it a try. Zen told himself as he took 2 steps back and put pressure on his legs to gather his life vitality and forceful energy. At the same time, the power from the dragon scales flowed into his body continually. He activated all the dragon scales to summon his utmost strength. With his current formidable physique, the power of the dragon scales couldn't burden his body as much as before. In addition, Zen closed his eyes and began to communicate with the stars. Double star. The moment Zen muttered to himself, starting a line of communication with the stars, the sky above the Feather Emperor's secret land flashed with the brilliant light of 2 stars. Their immense power blended into Zen's life vitality. Brilliance. He shouted out the last word as he leapt up from the ground. Since he was on a leaf, he was not affected by the powerful gravity of the place. As he jumped into the air, his body rose to a height of about 10 feet. He then rolled once before diving down toward the leaf below. His fist gathered powerful momentum and struck the huge leaf. The punch had gathered all the power that Zen could use up. He had also activated his stellar body alongside. It was infinitely stronger than the punch he had used to injure War Emperor York. Boom! As soon as his punch landed on the leaf, a violent sound reverberated around him. It was as if thunder itself had struck the ground. Anyone positioned on the huge tree would have heard it clearly. Below Zen were several scared stiff mineral-devouring bugs. Spreading their wings, they flew off in panic. Zen's fist was still pressed tightly against the leaf. Traces of blood trickled from between his fingers and along the huge leaf. Even though Zen possessed a physique as strong as a sacred weapon, the toughness of the leaf under his feet far exceeded it. The heavy punch that he landed on it was like smashing an egg against a rock. Although the leaf containing the ores did not crack even a bit, his fist still hurt. The last 3 layers of the leaves are sturdier than the golden leaf below. No wonder even the Soul Sea Realm Masters failed to take out the ores from within them, Zen reflected. However, he was not too disappointed. He had already expected this and had only wanted to confirm the fact. The pickaxe, that was what he needed to solve this problem. If he could get the Black Star pickaxe, he should be able to dig out the ores from within these leaves. However, the pickaxe itself was wrapped within the golden leaf. Nobody from the 4 divine kingdoms had managed to extract it, and Zen knew it would be a near impossible task for him to do so as well. Failing to figure out any solution to this deadlock, Zen decided to leave the leaf at the 45th layer. As he plummeted, 2 purple mineral-devouring bugs on the 41st and 43rd layers noticed it, wanting to chase after him. But Zen was too far away and his falling speed too quick, so they had to return to their original leaves. On his way down, Zen thought about what he could do next. With Zen's current strength, he was indeed unable to break the golden leaf, but it was still easier compared to smashing the leaves of the 45th layer. In other words, his last prospect was to get the Black Star pickaxe within the golden leaf. If he could obtain that supreme divine weapon, probably he could break even the top layered leaves. Since he couldn't do it alone, how about forming an alliance with others? If a few of them gathered on one leaf and attacked at the same time. However, Zen quickly rejected this idea. When Zen got out of the pyramid, Randy told him that only one warrior was allowed to enter through a narrow door at a time. If a number of them passed through the same narrow door simultaneously, only the first of them would land accurately on the leaf, while the other warriors would automatically be driven out. It made it impossible for them to climb onto the same leaf at the same time. Zen wasn't surprised at Randy's answer. After all, it hadn't been difficult for the Soul Sea Realm Masters to think up similar solutions in the past. Several powerful warriors of that realm had also previously tried stationing themselves on the nearby leaves to together attack a leaf. However, their methods had been restricted by the rules of the huge tree. It was something that a warrior of their level couldn't fight back. Anyone who wanted to get the pickaxe could only obtain it with the help of his own strength. Standing below the pyramid, Zen stared at its peak indifferently as he repeated this one word to himself, strength. He needed more strength to turn the situation around. But how could he increase it quickly? Suddenly, he saw a dozen or so warriors returning from their way on the left side of the pyramid, complaining to each other loudly. Everything valuable from the rubbish in the armory has been stolen over the years. There is nothing left for us. We might as well come back and dig for ores in the pyramid. I've searched for treasures there for so long, but I only got 2 spiritual weapons. They're both low grade. I wonder if the mineral-devouring bugs have returned to the higher layers yet. If they are gone, we should continue mining in the pyramid. They were a group of warriors who had gone to hunt for treasures in the debris. Although there were many weapons in the armory, it still required some luck to pick out weapons that weren't cursed. Moreover, there were other warriors every year who tried their fortunes in the armory, so the number of weapons that weren't cursed had decreased over time. The chances of finding a sacred weapon among them had become increasingly smaller. Weapons. Could they be of any help? Zen raised his eyebrows as an idea occurred to him. The heavenly essence in a weapon couldn't just dissipate into thin air unless it was destroyed. Why not just go and smelt the massive weapons in the armory? Zen's heart thumped with excitement as this thought came to his mind. Previously Zen had been in no hurry to absorb more heavenly essence because his body couldn't withstand any greater power. His fairy weapon physique nearly reached its limit after he had activated the 1000 dragon scales. But now that his body had improved to the level of a sacred weapon, he could withstand the power of more dragon scales. With the power of 1000 dragon scales, Zen was unable to break open the golden leaf and take the Black Star pickaxe within it. However, he had the opportunity to activate more dragon scales. Now what if he could activate 5000 dragon scales? Or even 10,000? Even when his strength was far from enough to carry out a mission, Zen still tried his best to achieve things. Right now, there was a feasible plan in place. Obviously, he couldn't let go of this opportunity. The only question now was whether those cursed weapons still contained the heavenly essence within them. Would the heavenly essence disappear because of the curse? In any case, he could just go and see it for himself. Zen made up his mind, saying to Randy, "Lord Randy, I would like to go and try my luck in the debris as well." Camilla was guarding the pile of ores when she heard Zen's words. Her face bloomed with curiosity. "Why would you do that? You already know it's just rubbish. If you're lucky, you might be able to find 1 or 2 sacred weapons at most among the cursed weapons. You could as well go on mining here." If Zen sold the mountainous pile of ores beside Camilla in the 4 divine kingdoms, the money would be enough to purchase 5 or 6 sacred weapons. That was far more than the value he could possibly get from the rubbish. "Camilla is right. With your strength, there's no need for you to do something so foolish," Randy stated, agreeing with Camilla. Still, for some unknown reason, he felt that Zen wasn't just going to the armory to pick undamaged weapons. "It's fine, I'm just curious. I'll come back later to mine," Zen replied with a smile. Just as he finished speaking, he raised his head and happened to meet Fiona's eyes. Although he had been busy going in and out of the pyramid, he hadn't forgotten to pay attention to those around him. His sharp gaze was always aware of everything. He knew that Fiona's gaze had been closely focused on him. As they locked eyes, Fiona showed him a soft, gentle smile and jumped down along the pyramid. Because of the suppression of the blood sacrifice's power, no one was able to fly at this place, so she had created a fiery red barrier around her body with her life vitality and glided several dozen feet down before arriving in front of Zen. "Let me go with you. I would like to take a look as well," she suggested to Zen. Her goal for exploring the Feather Holy Sea and entering the Feather Emperor's secret land wasn't to obtain the ores and treasures. She had come here to gain experience. Zen smiled and nodded in approval. He turned around and led the way, going around the pyramid and following the straight path to its left. There were quite a few divine-level geniuses who were returning from the armory one after another. Their gazes fixed on Zen and Fiona with curiosity as they passed by the two. Chapter 837, Lighting Up Scales. The warriors passed Fiona and Zen, speaking to one another in hushed speculations. "Don't you think it's strange? The princess of the Wind Divine Kingdom seems to always be following Zen. Who knows why? I have no clue." When the two of them were at the West Dragon River, she even offered to lend Zen her very own semi-divine weapon. "Zen has such great luck. Imagine, a princess, taking a fancy on a mere warrior. Even death would be worth it." The divine-level talents talked amongst themselves, gushing praises and words of adoration about Fiona. They kept their voices muffled, so as not to let words escape their circle. As they continued walking along the straight path for about 2 or 3 miles, an endless wall appeared in front of them. It towered over them in an undistinguishable shape, becoming clearer and clearer as they neared it. The carved lines turned and twisted to form a dragon. Its long body was coiling, with the head and tail as pillars of the entrance to the armory. They entered the dragon-shaped fence, and numerous warehouses came into view. A few divine-level talents were walking to and fro from them. As they surveyed the area, Fiona suddenly took off to the direction of one of the warehouses. "Those weapons should be displayed in the warehouses," she said, entering. Zen followed closely behind her, his eyes roaming around the room until his gaze landed on the large boxes inside. Pure, untainted copper gleamed against the light. These were no ordinary boxes, their surface having undergone special treatment. There was no trace of rust on surfaces that shone with a brass glow, as if they had been lying there untouched. The telltale signs of activity were everywhere. Most of the lids had been lifted and moved, and weapons scattered across the floor. There were many others who had been there before. These weapons, at first glance, one would think that the weapons were new and unused in their almost perfect condition. However, upon closer look, curls of faint, black smoke came out of the weapons. "What a strong curse," Fiona remarked, slowly walking over and picking up a weapon. It was an exquisite short spear, a mid-grade fairy weapon. She shook the spear lightly, and wisps of black smoke escaped from it. Zen looked at the weapons, unconcerned about the curses contained in them. What mattered to him more was whether or not he could extract the heavenly essence from within them. As Fiona observed the spear, Zen walked further into the depths of the warehouse. Copper boxes, like the ones they saw before, lined both sides in a neat line. All of the boxes were opened, and the weapons, once neatly placed inside, were now in a wild disarray. These weapons had not been taken away by the divine-level talents who rummaged around the boxes, which could only mean one thing: they were cursed. The curse can't be removed from the weapons, but if I can isolate the heavenly essence from it, that would be enough for me, he thought to himself. Zen dug into one of the boxes, picking out a large saber. It was a basic weapon of the dragon lineage human. He swung the saber around, the blade ringing a beautiful sound as it sliced into the air. Despite being only a mid-grade fairy weapon, its workmanship was extraordinary. Zen looked around and saw that Fiona had not followed him. Then, he gently closed his eyes and began to communicate with the mysterious furnace in his mind. As the mysterious furnace turned slowly, a black flame shot out from the hearth. The flame seemed to have its own soul, but Zen had been able to acquire the skill to use it in refining weapons. The black flame shot out from Zen's forehead, circling in the air for some moments before descending to the saber. The blade of the saber coiled and twisted until it had morphed into a small mass molten iron and dissolved, finally condensing into heavenly essence. A mid-grade fairy weapon contained a much greater amount of heavenly essence than mysterious weapons and spiritual weapons. The saber had at least 100 drops of heavenly essence, which would be enough for Zen to light up 20 dragon scales. However, Zen only held the heavenly essence on his hands tentatively, he was in no hurry to absorb it. The black smoke of the curse remained even after he had refined the weapon. The black flame can refine all weapons, but it wouldn't be able to release the curse within it, Zen muttered, his brows furrowed. This was not good news. The 4 divine kingdoms left these weapons untouched because of the curses contained in them. Getting rid of the curses would be a very difficult task. What could happen if he absorbed the heavenly essence, despite the curse? Zen mused upon this thought as he watched the black smoke coming from the heavenly essence. There was hesitation in his face. Another idea had formed in his mind. Once, the Cyan dragon had said that if he could obtain enough heavenly essence, the dragon would be able to create a new heavenly body. Countless weapons were left behind in this armory, most of them were spiritual and fairy weapons, and some were even sacred weapons. Fairy weapons and sacred weapons contained massive amounts of heavenly essence. If these weapons were completely absorbed, then Zen might be able to help the Cyan dragon forge a new body. The heavenly body would not be too large. The Cyan dragon's original body stretched for over 1,000 miles, and it would be nearly impossible to create a body of this length and size. At best, the Cyan dragon's new body would be about the size of an ordinary flood dragon. Even so, the Cyan dragon had been a great help to him. This was Zen's chance to return some of the favor back. The problem now was how to deal with the curse. Let's give it a try first, he said decisively, his mind having been made up. Zen's sacred weapon body made him impervious to poisons. However, the black smog was no poison, it was a curse. It had a different constitution, and he wasn't sure if his body would be able to withstand its effects. Zen closed his eyes and absorbed the heavenly essence. It shot into the space between his eyebrows. The mysterious furnace continued to burn, and more than 20 dragon scales on the surface of the Cyan dragon's body lit up. Zen had felt a difference after he had absorbed all of the heavenly essence. I'm not injured, Zen wondered, his lips curled into a relaxed smile. If there were no effects, then perhaps he must have been overthinking things. The next moment, the black flame rolled and shot directly into one of the copper boxes, inside of which were roughly 100 sabers of mid-grade fairy weapons. The black flame shook inside the box and the sabers melted like candle wax. The masses of heavenly essence rapidly flowed, the drops absorbing one another until they amalgamated into an immense mass that had the gleam of mercury. A large saber contained over 100 drops of heavenly essence, and all of the weapons combined produced over 10,000 drops. It was enough to light up 2,000 dragon scales. In the past, Zen had to pay for materials in order to melt and forge weapons. But right now in this vast warehouse, Zen was in the midst of thousands of mid-grade fairy weapons, and it had only been the first. Other warehouses might be keeping even more valuable ones. If he was able to find top-grade fairy weapons and sacred weapons, they would yield a much higher amount of heavenly essence. He had come across a treasure chest, like a bird flying into a giant granary. Zen devoured the heavenly essences from the weapons continuously. After refining the large sabers in one copper box, the black flame gently drifted away and drilled into another. It pierced through the box, creating a small hole in the 2-inch thick copper. At once, it began its work, melting the weapons until the heavenly essence had been extracted. Wolf fang hammers were in the next box. They were also mid-grade fairy weapons like the large sabers, but each wolf fang hammer produced more heavenly essence due to its heftier bulk. One box went on to become 2, then 3, then 4, then 5 copper boxes. The black flame ransacked the boxes for all of the mid-grade fairy weapons. Soon, there were only ashes in the space that used to be filled with swords, spears, and hammers. As of this moment, Zen had absorbed about 60 to 70,000 drops of heavenly essence. The Cyan dragon's scales lit up. Zen looked at the green light, a smile appearing on his face once more. The cyan dragon was still in slumber. Both he and the red dragon seemed to be exhausted after helping Zen resist the little monster's attack. Even now, they had not woken up. The cyan dragon might find a surprise waiting for him when he woke up. I have already lit up a total of 14,000 dragon scales. The power of 1,000 dragon scales would equal the full force of a Soul Sea Realm Master. What would happen if the power of 14,000 dragon scales was released? The power might be unfathomable. Even Zen, with his sacred weapon body, might not be able to withstand its intensity. Chapter 838, Purification Fire. Now if Zen unleashed his strength fully, even if a powerful master at the Soul Sea Realm activated his protective life vitality to the maximum, he still wouldn't be able to withstand a punch by the former. However, that did not mean Zen was completely invincible. He was still going to be unable to defeat a mighty warrior at the Soul Sea Realm. After all, the strength of warriors who were at the peak of the Soul Sea Realm was calculated not only by their physical strength. Their speed, martial arts, cultivation methods, and mastery of laws were all better than Zen, and they could defeat him. Zen's mind right now was focused on the golden leaf, and he was going to use his own strength to smash it open so he could take out the Black Star pickaxe. Thinking of this, Zen wanted to test the limits of his physical body. Thus, he began to gather the power of the dragon scales. However, just as he was about to pour the power of the dragon scales into his body, he suddenly heard Fiona shout from not too far away. "Thad, where are you?" She had entered the arsenal along with Zen and had been looking around the weapons scattered everywhere. Looking at the curses on them, Fiona was wondering if there was any way to purify the weapons and lift the power of the curses that lay upon them. Among various original laws, some of the laws were supposed to have similar effects at sufficiently higher levels. For instance, the space law, the thunder law, and the fire law all contained a similar effect, that of purification. However, the principle behind the purification ritual of different laws was different. The thunder law could create countless lightning sparks and a cultivator could release those sparks onto the target to purify it. However, the fire law worked in a different way. One could even say that the fire law burned the curses instead of removing them. Fiona had grasped the usage of a special type of flame, purification fire. The temperature of this purification fire was not very high. In fact, it was very low when compared to that of most common fires. Its lack of warmth could be judged from the fact that if one utilized this purification fire on normal firewood, the latter would remain completely unharmed. However, the purification fire was very effective against negative powers like the power of the curses. Similarly, it could also hurt evil creatures. However, Fiona wasn't sure if her purification fire could work on such powerful curses. They looked dangerous. Thinking about that, Fiona decided to give it a try. A milky white flame appeared in her hand as she began to burn the power of curse on a spear. Fiona's purification fire and the black flame in Zen's mind were on two opposite extremes. The black flame in Zen's mind could almost destroy everything. However, Fiona's purification fire would not cause any damage to weapons. When the milky white flames emerged, the black smoke on the spear began to disappear and dissipate slowly. "It works," Fiona thought as excitement appeared on her face. She was happy because her flame had turned out to be very useful. For other divine-level talents, if they had been able to obtain a few clean sacred weapons from this cursed pile, they would feel very lucky. However, in Fiona's eyes, the value of sacred weapons was no better than that of trash. Even if her purification fire had the ability to eliminate the power of curses on these weapons, she didn't bother to purify all of these weapons. She only wanted to see if the purification fire was strong enough. Only then did Fiona realize that Zen had gone into the depth of the arsenal. She then immediately threw away the spear and went to look for Zen. Who knew what dangers he might have fallen into? "Thad," she called out a few times and saw Zen's figure suddenly appear. At the sight of him, Fiona covered her mouth with her hand and asked in horror, "Thad, what has happened to you?" When Zen saw Fiona looking at him in surprise, he was extremely puzzled. What was wrong with him? He felt completely fine, so why did she ask so? He had only devoured a great deal of the heavenly essence. But he assumed that others wouldn't be able to know what he had done. The absorption of heavenly essence shouldn't have caused any change to his appearance. However, what Fiona said next startled him. "Thad, did you somehow eat those weapons?" His heart started to beat faster at her words. He was unwilling to let anyone know about how he had devoured the heavenly essence. After all, the secret about the black flame and the mysterious furnace was only shared between him and Lavender. Lavender was his sword spirit and she was attached to his body, so she wouldn't tell anyone either. What do you mean? No matter how Fiona came to know about it, Zen wouldn't admit it. Fiona pointed at Zen's face and asked, if you haven't devoured those weapons, why would the power of the curses be in your body? Look at the smoke that is coming out of your body. What Zen did not know was that after he had absorbed the heavenly essence, the power of the curses had not disappeared. Instead, it had gathered within his body. And that was the reason why Fiona was so surprised. Because the curses were affecting him now, in a strange way. Zen was unaware that the power of these curses was powerful enough to cause a lot of damage to living creatures. Such damage usually appeared to the naked eye in two ways. It would either seep into one's body, slowly eroding the consciousness and taking over. Soon the person would lose his common sense, and start acting weird and even go insane and become a lunatic. However, this only happened when a warrior tried to carry a cursed weapon with him. So no one was willing to take these weapons with them. Judging from this characteristic of the power of the curses, one could say that the curses were similar to a poison. As for Zen's body, which was a sacred weapon, it was completely immune to this effect. However, the power of the curses also had another effect, which was to make these weapons highly vulnerable, rendering them fragile. The hardness of the weapons in front of them right now was only about half of what it had been before they were cursed. Zen was going to have to pay attention to this negative effect. This was because his body was a sacred weapon, and if his body was contaminated with the power of the curses, his physical strength would be severely weakened. Zen was completely unaware of the effects of the power of the curses. However, he would definitely not allow the black smoke to continuously emit from his body. Hearing Fiona's words, Zen was shocked and immediately picked up a large saber from the copper box. The shiny blade of the saber was silver enough to act like a mirror. He looked at his image through the blade and found that there was indeed black smoke constantly rising from all over him. This was a bit troublesome. Zen's heart sank as he asked, what other effects do these curses have? I don't know. Fiona blinked as she stared at Zen with curiosity. She just couldn't figure out how Zen had managed to get the curses onto his body from the weapons. Most people wouldn't be able to do that even if they wanted to. Unless a warrior carried a cursed weapon for a very, very long time indeed, he or she couldn't physically transfer curses. Did Thad really eat those weapons? These were fairy weapons. No matter how strong his body was, it was going to be impossible for him to digest them. Seeing Fiona curiously staring at him, Zen felt helpless. Perhaps Fiona was easy to fool, and even if he didn't say anything, she would not keep asking about it. But the others weren't that stupid. If those powerful masters at Soul Sea Realm happened to see this, they would surely not let him go until he gave them a valid explanation. Then he would be in great trouble. However, there was nothing Zen could do right now. Seeing Zen's conflicted expression, Fiona faintly smiled. She focused her beautiful eyes on the young man in front of him and told him calmly, I don't know what the consequences of these curses are going to be, but they are definitely not going to be good. But don't worry, I can purify you. You can purify me? Zen was shocked. Yes, Fiona replied seriously. She wasn't the type of woman who joked around. Since you can purify me, then. A smile appeared on his face as he said half of what he had intended to say. In Zen's line of reasoning, if he had such ability, he would purify all those weapons one by one and sell them out. But the woman in front of him was the dignified princess of a divine kingdom. Of course she didn't lack money, and these fairy weapons and sacred weapons were nothing to her. Perhaps Fiona had figured out what Zen wanted to say. She smiled knowingly and ordered him, don't move. And don't worry, I know what I am doing. After she finished speaking, a milky white flame rose from Fiona's hand. Zen could not feel any heat from the flame. What kind of flame is this? As Zen stared at the milky white flame, a stunned expression appeared on his face and he couldn't help asking. This is the purification fire that can purify everything, Fiona replied and slowly pushed the flame towards Zen. When it touched his body, Zen didn't feel any heat. On the contrary, he actually felt a chill being emanated from it. Zen found it miraculous that such a flame existed in this world, but as the chilling sensation continuously came to him, Zen's mind became abnormally pure. That didn't mean he was losing his mind. Fiona's purification fire could not only purify the power of the curses, it could also purify all distracting and evil thoughts, as well as the ill intentions of all living beings. Of course, any normal person would have distracting thoughts throughout his lifetime. But when the purification fire was inside a person's body, his distracting thoughts would be temporarily cleansed. Once it left his body, his mind would return to its previous self. Chapter 839, Black Heart Firestone. Fiona was in close proximity to Zen and kept on releasing the purification fire, slowly pushing the flame into his body. Zen could see the seriousness etched on her face. He didn't have any desire towards her while his thoughts were being purified by the purification fire. His mind had entered a very strange state, in which he was able to appreciate the Princess of the Wind Divine Kingdom with an extremely pure mind. Fiona's skin was white as snow, her eyes pitch black and deep. Her eyelashes were constantly trembling, and her hair that was appropriately draped over her shoulders was like a beautiful piece of art. But as she became aware of Zen's intense gaze upon her, Fiona suddenly felt shy. Her fair cheeks blushed crimson and her fingers trembled. The purification fire in her hand pulsed continuously as if it was beating at the same rate as her heart. Fortunately, her purification fire wouldn't hurt anyone, and it wouldn't burn Zen even when it randomly jumped about. After Zen had smelted the weapons and absorbed a considerable amount of the heavenly essence, the curse power within the weapons had also been absorbed by him. And the amount of this curse power that gathered within him was quite large. Although the purification ability of her purification fire was extraordinary, it still required extreme control over the fire law on her part. Even if she had comprehended the third layer of the fire law, she could only turn her life vitality into the purification fire that was only as thick as a thumb. And it would still take a lot of time to cleanse all the curse power within Zen's body with her purification fire. But the curse power that Zen had absorbed did begin to dissipate under the effect of the purification fire. An hour or so later, fine beads of sweat began to form on Fiona's forehead while the curse power emanating from Zen's body became weaker and weaker. Aha, it's done. Fiona let out a long breath as her face split into a wide, comfortable grin. Even after Fiona had extinguished the purification fire, Zen's gaze remained fixed on her. He had entered a truly wondrous state of mind during this hour. In Zen's opinion, there were many other uses of Fiona's purification fire in addition to expelling the curse power. For example, if a warrior could not calm down while cultivating, it would often result in a lot of distracting thoughts. Her purification fire, however, could remove all these distracting thoughts. And when Zen had been staring at Fiona for an hour without any distracting thoughts, her face had been deeply imprinted in his mind. Following this, a very strange feeling overcame Zen's mind, not because he had a thing for Fiona, but because of a special kinship he felt for his savior. There was no way for Fiona to know what Zen was thinking when she realized he was still staring at her in a daze. She looked at him strangely before saying, "You still haven't told me how you managed to get the curse power into your body." Zen couldn't just tell her the truth. He thought for a moment before saying, "Just look at it like me eating those weapons." Fiona's face filled with disbelief. But she was programmed in such a way that she didn't press on. She had never been overbearing towards anyone and she naturally wouldn't force Zen to tell her something that he wasn't willing to speak of. However, even if the warriors were to take these cursed weapons with them, the curse power wouldn't attack them immediately. It would be a while before the curse power would take effect and corrode their bodies. And even if Zen had really swallowed the weapons, it would have been impossible for him to absorb the curse power into his body in such a short period of time. Fiona's gaze swept the area. The bronze chests in front of her were already empty. There wasn't a single weapon in them, so what exactly was going on? Why is that acting so strange? She thought. She had been quietly observing Zen from the start. But ever since she had entered the Feather Holy Sea, instead of having a greater understanding of Zen, she found that he became more mysterious, as if he had countless secrets. But digging out a person's secrets was an interesting exercise. To Fiona, exploring the Feather Holy Sea was like taking a tour, and digging out Zen's secrets was like a little game. Since Zen had already swallowed so much heavenly essence, he could not wait any longer and wanted to drain out all the energy within his body. So he and Fiona left the armory and returned to the pyramid together. By this time, most of the warriors who had gone to scavenge through the garbage had already returned from the armory. Because the danger of the mineral-devouring bugs had been eliminated, many divine-level talents had also entered the mining tree. This meant that the warriors trading in front of the pyramid were once again active. Seeing that Zen had returned, Camilla hastily waved at him. Her face was full of joy as she said, "Thad, come here. I've collected 36 more life stones." The divine-level talents had managed to figure out Camilla's state of mind. This year, Zen and Camilla had been the ones to get all of the life stones. And now, the life stones had become a rarity, even rarer than other rare ores. The reason was simple: mining other rare ores might not be useful, one might not even need them at all, only using them in exchange for something else. But mining the life stones would allow them to directly exchange them for the ores they needed from Camilla. Furthermore, the number of life stones that had appeared was becoming smaller and smaller, and the price that Camilla offered was getting higher and higher. The price that she had offered had already far exceeded the original value of the life stones. Of course, Camilla was clear about what was going on in Zen's mind. He wanted as many life stones as possible, no matter how high the cost. And no matter what, as long as the others used the life stones as an exchange, she would do her best to satisfy their requests. Even though Camilla was unwilling to suffer any losses, she would do this to help Zen exchange the life stones. Zen nodded, a smile on his face. Although his goal had changed, he could still use the life stones. Even though he had smelted those cursed weapons, absorbed a lot of heavenly essence, and ignited more than 10,000 dragon scales, Zen was still not confident that he could break the golden leaf and take out the black star. So that meant that the life stones were still Zen's choice. At worst, he could just take all the life stones that were produced this year and make a comeback next year. Callan also appeared outside the pyramid. He ran towards Fiona and shouted excitedly, "Fiona! Fiona, look at this ore!" A bright red stone sat in Callan's hand. Its surface looked strange, with lines on it that looked like many clouds of fire. Whatever it was, it looked extremely beautiful. "What kind of stone is this?" Fiona blinked and stared curiously at it. The siblings of the Huo clan didn't understand much about ores. Fiona's curiosity was piqued even further as she saw Callan's excitement. Zen also stared at the ore in bewilderment. He didn't see anything special about it other than its unique shape. The clouds of fire were distributed in such a regular pattern that they were most likely carved by hand. Although Zen himself did not have the ability to identify ores, with his instincts and perception, he could probably distinguish between the good and the bad. And though some of the ores that he had given Camilla were normal ores, more than 70% of them were considered very rare. This is the Black Heart Fire Stone. It is extremely useful for a warrior that cultivates the fire law. "Fiona, this is for you," Callan said with a wide smile. Zen's expression twisted even more. Camilla blinked several times before asking, "Black Heart Fire Stone? How come I've never heard of this type of ore before?" There were over 1,000 types of ores in the mine and Camilla could recognize almost all of them. But she had never heard of the Black Heart Fire Stone. She gazed at the stone in Callan's hand. A whirl of thoughts went through her mind. Callan is a simple and honest person. It would be alright if he had dug up this stone by himself. But it would be a huge loss if he had obtained it from someone else. He might have been deceived by someone. Thinking of this, Camilla used her life vitality to explain her thoughts to Zen. Zen had had his suspicions and Camilla's analysis basically confirmed them. He asked, "Prince Callan, did you excavate this Black Heart Fire Stone yourself, or did you exchange it with someone else?" Chapter 840, Dispute. Callan didn't understand why Zen had asked such a question. In any case, he replied in a stiff voice, "I didn't dig it out myself. Frederick sold it to me. Is there something wrong?" As Fiona heard Frederick's name, she also frowned. Of the 4 crown princes of the 4 divine kingdoms, only Callan, who was her younger brother, was honest and simple-minded. She didn't like the other 3, especially Frederick, who was the crown prince of the York divine kingdom. He was at the bottom of her list of likable men. He was extremely cunning and vicious. Although Fiona hadn't seen him many times, he had left a bad impression on her. Thus, Fiona immediately asked, "How many life vitality crystals did you spend buying it?" Callan replied, 9,000. The mentioned life vitality crystals were naturally supreme life vitality crystals. 9,000 supreme life vitality crystals was not a small number even for a crown prince. It might very well have been more than half of Callan's savings. Fiona took the Black Heart Fire Stone from Callan's hand and frowned. Something didn't seem right. Seeing his sister's expression, Callan opened his mouth and told her, "Fiona, they demonstrated to me that this ore can withstand fire. They said that after refining it, it would be able to greatly consolidate the purity of one's flames." As Callan's voice fell, a wisp of flame rose from Fiona's hand. She was going to test the stone. Although the flame in her hand wasn't large, the temperature was extremely high and it was hot beyond imagination. The power of the 3rd layer of fire law wasn't a joke. Under the heat of this pure flame, a crackling sound came from the Black Heart Fire Stone. Cracks immediately erupted from the exquisite clouds of fire on the stone as it began to melt under the immense heat and pressure. In the blink of an eye, the entire stone was incinerated into fragments. Callan's eyes became wide open as he blankly stared at these fragments. His face filled with disbelief. His strength might not have been as great as Fiona's, but he had also cultivated the 3rd layer of the fire law. Before buying the stone, he had also used his own fire to try and burn it, and even after giving it a flame for several minutes, he was unable to burn it down. But how had Fiona turned the stone into fragments? At this time, Callan also understood that he had been deceived. Zen and Camilla thought that Frederick must have used some tricks to fool Callan. Callan was a dull and honest person, and it wasn't going to be difficult to fool him. Fiona's gaze was calm, but her face looked extremely frosty. She had an amiable personality and never liked to argue with anyone, but she was simply not going to allow anyone to deceive her brother. At this moment, the ring of light on the side of the pyramid slightly flickered. Frederick, carrying a pickaxe, came out from the mine. Once he was outside, the rings of light flashed one after the other and some of his followers also came out. Although one leaf could only accommodate one warrior, Frederick's group had chosen to enter through his adjacent doors, which would allow them to fall on the neighboring leaves after entering the mine. Now, following Frederick, the divine-level talents from his divine kingdom had also come out. Fiona held the fragments of the black heart fire stone in her hand and looked at Frederick. Although she was angry, her voice was still clear and indifferent. In fact, her voice was its usual brand of calmness. However, her words revealed a majesty that could not be refused. Frederick, return the 9,000 life vitality crystals to my brother. Take these fragments back and let bygones be bygones. Frederick was in a good mood right now as he had reaped a great harvest from the mine in the Feather Emperor's secret land. Although Zen had dug out most of the ores from the mine, the other princes, princesses, and divine-level talents had reaped less rewards than Frederick. Personally, Frederick was envious of Zen as Camilla had helped him earn more than 100,000 supreme life vitality crystals, but he still stayed calm. After all, Zen was a dead man in his mind. He was sure that his father, War Emperor York, would not let Zen go. Frederick's eyes darkened at Fiona's words. Looking at the pile of debris in her hand, he knew that his trick had been exposed. However, he wasn't the least bit nervous. He was cunning and knew how to come out on top of such a situation. What are they? The stone you sold to Callan was a fake. Please return his life vitality crystals to him. Seeing Frederick play dumb, Fiona got angry. Her eyebrows knitted themselves together even more fiercely. She was a kind and innocent girl, but she couldn't bear her brother being fooled by anyone. Hearing Fiona's words, Frederick chuckled. Princess Fiona, what you've said is incorrect. When did I say that the stone was real? What, you? Callan became anxious. Just as he was about to speak, Frederick interrupted him. What did I say? Callan, did I tell you that the stone was real? In fact, I even reminded you that I was not sure of the value of the stone, didn't I? And I said I didn't want to sell it to you, right? It was you yourself who insisted on buying it, and even swore that regardless of whether it was real or fake, you would not pursue the matter, right? Frederick was clever with his words. After what he just said, Callan didn't know how to retort at all. In the end, he could only suppress his anger and nod his head, his face as red as a tomato. What Frederick had said was true. In reality, he and his followers had set up a trap for Callan and deceived him effortlessly. Princess Fiona, your brother has already admitted to it. Isn't this matter very clear? I already told him that I didn't want to sell it to him. Callan insisted on buying it. Now you're going to look for trouble with me. Isn't that very inappropriate? Frederick asked. Faced with Frederick's questions, Fiona didn't know how to answer. She wasn't someone who was particularly good at arguing. The moment Frederick opened his mouth, all the reasoning had come to his side and it seemed like her brother was in the wrong. Seeing Fiona's expression, Frederick smiled smugly. He chuckled and told her, as a matter of fact, although Callan forced me to sell this stone to him and it was even burned to this state by you, it's not impossible for me to return the life vitality crystals to you. I have a deal. Fiona's face changed. What do you mean? Pointing at the jade bracelet on Fiona's arm, Frederick smiled and replied, if you are willing to lend me the bracelet for a year or so, I will consider myself unlucky and return all the life vitality crystals. What do you think about that, Princess Fiona? The value of the semi-divine weapon on Fiona's arm was incalculable. Ordinary princes or princesses who were not favored by their fathers did not have such a treasure. Even as the wealthiest crown prince of the York Divine Kingdom, Frederick only had 2 heavenly thunder halberds that could be ranked at the level of semi-divine weapons. Such weapons were extremely rare. A bigger problem was that the heavenly thunder halberds were only single-use treasures. In the spirit beast area, Frederick had already used up one of those halberds in order to escape. Now, he was only left with the other. Ha ha, hearing this, Zen couldn't hold back his laughter. Looking at Zen laughing so unrestrainedly in front of him, Frederick gnashed his teeth and shouted, what are you laughing at, Thad Luo? I'm laughing because you can act so shamelessly. I'm truly impressed by you, or rather, your stupidity and shamelessness. Zen replied with a faint smile. How dare you, Thad Luo, you are courting death. How dare you insult the crown prince of our York divine kingdom? You're dead. You don't seem to have figured out your identity. You're just a nobody, you're nothing in front of the imperial family. Before Frederick himself could say anything, the divine-level talents who followed him began clamoring. In the 4 divine kingdoms, the power of the warriors was something that every commoner aspired for but could never attain. As for the warriors themselves, the power of the imperial family members was something they could imagine of, think of, and try to achieve, but never succeed in reaching. This sort of narrow-minded thinking had been built up over thousands and thousands of years in the 4 divine kingdoms. Zen, however, didn't care about it. To put it bluntly, the establishment of a divine kingdom depended on one's own strength. If a divine kingdom's imperial family members lost their strength, then the divine kingdom would automatically be in extreme danger. And since there were no Soul Sea Realm masters among this lot, Zen could beat every single one of these divine-level talents with his strength. As a result, he didn't show Frederick the slightest respect. So what if Frederick was the crown prince of the York divine kingdom? Zen still had the Harlan divine kingdom backing him up. What was more, Zen was helping Fiona and Callan. Behind them stood the Wind divine kingdom. In other words, it was 2 whole divine kingdoms along with Zen against 1. You guys talk too much nonsense. Zen sneered. His eyes fell on Frederick. I will only say this once. Return the life vitality crystals to Callan and this matter will be over. Do not embarrass yourself. The moment he said this, Frederick's expression immediately turned extremely dark. Perhaps Fiona was very strong, but Frederick wasn't too afraid of her. In his mind, one of the siblings from the Huo clan was stupid and the other was too naive. He could beat them both. But now, Zen was standing up for them too. If Zen was a bit more polite, Frederick might have given in, but his words were too unpleasant to listen to. If he gave in right now in front of Zen, then everyone would believe that he was afraid of him.